Something like this. Hit it.
The Roger Report live morning show, weekdays at 9 a.m.
Say y'all, I was on Roger's channel a few times and I couldn't take it. The heat. I got out the kitchen. It was hot. I was sweating. I had to get out.
He's Roger, and he's right.
Check this out.
We can live or die. You choose. I have spoken to you a lot of times in hatred and anger, and you have not heard me. Well, you had better hear me today. If you won't listen to me when I make an appeal for the Negroes because you have no concern for the Negroes, listen to me when I make an appeal for America. You claim you love America. Well, we love America. But you are driving us back and you are making a Samson out of us, and we are going to pull down the pillars. And then you think we have no right to ask for something? Is it too much to ask you to grant us human dignity? Should we be put down and shot to death for this request? If so, you can aim your guns. What the hell do you think we care about dying if you're going to deny us the right to live?
Good morning, folks, and welcome to another edition of the Roger Report Live, the best show on social media. If you are new to the channel, go ahead and take a moment out to hit that like button, because this is where you're going to find the best content on social media. And you don't have to worry about it because you're going to have me right here to make sure that happens. And if you've already been coming to the channel for a while, then go ahead and hit that like button, because you already know what time it is. And you know that this is where you're going to get the best content on social media. It's not a mystery to you at this point. You've seen other people do it. You've seen other people do it well, but what you have not seen is anyone do it quite the way I do it. So make sure you hit that like button. And everyone, yes, everyone, take a moment out to share the content, y'all. There are so many people who need to get great content like this, and it's just a small thing you can do to help the world be a better place. And isn't that what we want at the end of the day? Don't we want the world to be a better place? Of course we do. So share the content out. Share it through your social media. Share it through word of mouth, or even text someone's phone. But do what you got to do to help spread the word. All right, folks, today we are doing another installment of the grand finale, and we are going to be honoring the one, the only, a very smooth brother. A brother with a great voice, a brother who was able to attract a lot of attention and put a lot of people where they, well, at least help put a lot of people where they needed to be. We are doing a grand finale for Don Cornelius, okay? We're going to do a grand finale for Don Cornelius, a brother full of soul, okay? A brother full of soul. Now, before we go too far into this, I do want to say shout out to all the people who gives views to this channel. I'm glad I can help give you something good to listen to while you're doing whatever it is that you're doing in life. Okay, I appreciate the views that people give. Definitely appreciate it. Shout out to all the people who make comments after the stream. That's a very important, helps with the algorithm big time. So I appreciate everyone who does that. Also, shout out to everybody who hits that like button, y'all. That's a very important thing. And no matter how old the stream is, make sure you hit the like button on it, y'all. It helps, period. And now they have a new thing about hyping people up. So y'all make sure y'all hype me up. Real talk, okay? Hype me up. I don't know who you hyping up, but it should be me. I'm gonna say that. Get me included. Get me included. Whoever you hype it up, make sure you get me included. I appreciate it big time. Appreciate it big time. And y'all, I gotta say, shout out to the people who go above and beyond. I got a lot of folks here who will invest in the channel. I say that, I give you good entertainment, good conversation, a lot of great stuff, and you make some investments. Okay, you allow me to do the things that I do, and I couldn't do things the same way without you. So shout out to everyone who takes a little drop in the bucket, and shout out to Truck Turner. He is a sponsor of today's stream. So shout out to you, Truck Turner. Shout out to you. Appreciate you big time. Appreciate you big time. And that's real talk. And Truck been rocking with me. Like, he a real, like, day one type of brother. So shout out to Truck Turner. He been rocking with me for such a good long time. Appreciate you big time, my brother. And that's real talk. Appreciate you big time. All right, folks, we are going to talk a little bit about Don Cornelius, who gave us something that we really just didn't have. He came in at a time where it was difficult to do certain things in a certain way for Black folks. Let's just keep that real. He he's recent history, but he still dealt with, yesterday, as they say, in the years of yesterday. Don Cornelius, great man, gotta say, happens to be it just so happens, just so happens. Don Cornelius lived in Chicago. Did you know that? Okay. Like, he was from Chicago. Okay. Chicago produces some great folks. That's all I'm gonna say. Chicago produces some great folks. Don Cornelius happens to be one of them. And y'all, he did what he had to do to achieve a little bit of greatness, okay? Achieve a little bit of greatness, okay? Matter of fact, I didn't even do this. Shout out to some of the first people to check in this morning. Let me say shout out to some of the first people to check in, because when you start a show, it's always great to see people filing right on in when you get going. So shout out to my main man, Gold P. He is what we like to call around this joint the Highlander of today's stream. So shout out to you, brother. Shout out to you. Appreciate you being here, my brother. Appreciate you being here. Okay. Also, shout out to my main man, Chef Mike's Roundtable, the pit master himself. Helps keep some order around here. He'll do some of the stuff that I ain't gonna even do myself. Chef Mike will take care of it, though. He sees something wrong, he gonna take care of it. So shout out to Chef Mike. We appreciate you, brother. We appreciate you. I just saw something he said down there. Shout out to J Bones. I see you in the building, my brother. I see you in the building. My main man, Afro Merchant, is here. Great to see you. Great to see you. Tunnel Runner is also here. Shout out to you, brother. Glad to have you. Dolomite is in the building as well. Good to see you, brother. Good to see y'all. I'm laughing at Chef Mike. Say, here come the Jordan reference. Chef Mike, I wasn't even thinking in that direction. I was trying to think about the greatness of our main man, the man of the hour, Don Cornelius, who, if you think about it, might just be the Jordan of television music, okay? Wasn't planning on going there. But since you bring it up, might just be the Jordan of music television. I say that, y'all. Might be the Jordan of music television. Don Cornelius, a great man that, he helped put music television on the map, y'all. Okay? He helped actually put a great light on Black America. All right? Will Don Cornelius ever get his quote unquote just due? Probably not. I'm gonna say that, man. Probably not. Because what Don Cornelius was able to do, he literally helped change America. Okay, which changes the world. All right. He literally helped change America. Now, he was a regular guy. He's just a regular guy with a smooth voice. Okay. Don Cornelius had, a few jobs, found out the man actually became a police officer for a while. Yep. Don Cornelius, that smooth brother, actually, he was the popo for a minute, y'all. Don Cornelius was 12, you know? So he was a regular guy trying to, make life better, do things to better himself, better his people, and he wanted to better the image of Black Americans, period. Okay. And that's what he was about. Now, when you go into things like that, it's hard to get you just do. Let's just keep it real. It's hard to get you just do. Because when you try to do something good, people gonna always attack you. People gonna say bad things about you. People try to jump on you, when they find any imperfection you have, as if people are perfect. And some of the same things happened to Don Cornelius. And I'm gonna say, he was a cop for a while, and I personally appreciate any Black cop out there that's trying to make a difference. Black men and cops don't have the best relationship. Okay, we don't have the best relationship. So anytime there's a Black officer who would treat brothers with respect, I got to appreciate it. I got to appreciate it. To go into that field knowing the relationship Black men have with the police, don't get me wrong, it's a great thing that people would, because it's a great help. But I understand there's going to be certain drawbacks that if you're going to be a good Black police officer, there's going to be some drawbacks that come with that, you know. And there's just drawbacks that come with being a police officer in general, because you could die on duty, don't get no more than, you can't sacrifice no more than your life. Okay. But to do it as a Black officer, I'm pretty sure it's just a little bit more when it comes to that. It's just a little bit more when it comes to that. Yeah. And Don Cornelius, of course, is associated with one of the greatest shows in television history. Okay. It's actually one of the longest running syndicated shows in television history as well. All right. Believe it or not, Soul Train. Yes, this baby of Don Cornelius, okay, he birthed Soul Train. Soul Train came on air, believe it or not, all the way in October 2nd to be exact, in 1971. Okay, 1971, y'all. Okay. uh And a lot of great things happen. A lot of great things happen, and y'all know it's hard to be in television and last for a while. Y'all do know that, right? It's hard to get on television and have any kind of show that's gonna last for a while. All right, Don did this for more than 30 years. He was AKA the conductor of the Soul Train, and I guess I could understand a little bit why is some folks wouldn't see Don Cornelius the way we really should see Don Cornelius, because, real talk, he was about creating a certain image for Black folks. Some people called him a control freak. I can understand, because Don wanted things to be good. He wanted things to be right. And he had an understanding that anybody who comes onto the Soul Train is going to be a representative for Black people. And Don wanted to make sure we had a good representation of Black people. Now, there's people who can't necessarily appreciate something like this, at least not right off bat, or sometimes people don't appreciate it when it's happening. Okay, they don't appreciate when it's happening. And sometimes it has to be gone for a while for them to really get how important something was or how impactful something was. Now, let me say, Don Cornelius truly helped change America, which in turn changes the world. Imagine being involved in the music industry way back then, y'all. Now, I know some people look at black people today and they say, well, black people dominate these areas in music. We talking about 1971, y'all. I remember that Civil Rights Act that I referred to a lot. That happened in 1964. So we're talking about something that's less than 10 years from that Civil Rights Act. Okay? We're talking about something less than 10 years. Okay? Don created a show that I'm going to say created a sensation. And I'm going to say, actually, I'm going to say created a tradition, basically. You can say almost, or I think it was a solid tradition. A tradition of what black people were going to do on Saturday mornings, y'all. And when you think about this, what were black people? Not every black person, of course, but if you was a black person in America, what did you do on Saturday mornings? Being realistic, y'all, just being realistic. What did black people in America do on Saturday mornings? Now, I'm basically saying, a good portion of the collective of black people. I know, you're not going to have every single person do it. But what happened on Saturday mornings with black folk? Who didn't watch Soul Train? Let's be real. Okay, who didn't watch Soul Train? Y'all, when people still didn't respect the black dollar, okay, people were still saying black folks don't really have nothing to offer to the world. All right. Now, I'm not going to say you didn't have some music acts. Blacks have been in music in some capacity, before 1971. But as you get into new things, you go into new ages, you go into new eras. The Soul Train era came. Now, realistically speaking, what did the Soul Train era do for people as artists? You could go to certain places, y'all, and there was still racial tensions going on. Okay, there was still racial tensions. We talking about 1971 when he started the Soul Train. Okay, a show that it saw black music evolve. It was right there. Okay. As an artist, if you wanted to make it, you wanted to get a good impact, if you wanted your record sales to go up, if you want to be quote unquote introduced to black America, and let's keep it real, a bunch of white America was watching too. Okay. It ain't like it only came on in black people's households. Soul Train was able to do something where, no matter who you were, no matter what color person you were, this will start creeping into other folks' houses. All right. And it started creeping into other folks' houses. Yeah. Put together 4 black folks, but it started creeping into other folks' houses. And Don Cornelius he might have actually been the first black executive producer. I'm not quite sure on that, but looking at some of the stuff that was said, he might have been the very first actual black executive producer of a TV show. It took some guts to get this on, y'all. It took some guts to get this on. And I'm going to say, when the Soul Train started, a lot of folks was taking some calculated risks, some very calculated risks. Because again, we're talking about 1971. That black music was doing things. Okay, y'all know the white folks that was running stuff wasn't all that cool with black music quite like that. Now, black folks have always been seen as cool to entertain. That's been white supremacy approved for a long time. Yeah, the people who believe in white supremacy, they believe that niggers can entertain. You know, that was the attitude. What niggas can entertain. If we keep niggas into entertainment, it's gonna be okay. All right. But of course, a lot of them wanted to control the niggas that entertain, which still goes on to this day. All right. It still goes on to this day. Don Cornelius had an idea that not only did he want to just quote unquote entertain, he also had an understanding that, you know, as you entertain, people are going to intake certain things. They're going to intake certain images. You know, everything is not going to necessarily be comfortable, but you got to do what you got to do to put out the vision that you want. And Don Cornelius wanted a great vision of Black people. Now, is he a perfect man? Of course not. Okay, of course he wasn't a perfect man. Will he be judged based on perfection? Probably. Why? Because he's a Black man. And for a Black man in America, a lot of people will not give you props unless you are perfect. Let's just be real about it. Unless you're absolutely perfect, folks want to tear you down. Now, Don Cornelius had to put on a great show week in, week out with the Soul Train. And I'm going to say he gave a lot of artists a place to come. Since he was a nationally syndicated show, what did he do, man? He gave artists a place to come to quote unquote be. I'm not going to say an artist couldn't make it without him. I'm not going to say that. Okay. If you're a very talented individual, sometimes you can still make it even though things are rough. And there were some artists who definitely were going through some rough times back then. So I'm not going to say they couldn't have made it without Don Cornelius. But to get on Soul Train definitely made the trip a little bit easier, y'all. Okay. He actually used to fast track people's careers. You know, as an artist, you know, you want some exposure. Every artist has to be new at some point. Okay. Every single artist has to be new at some point. I'm laughing at Shark saying. So yeah, every artist got to be new at some point. So what was one of the things you could do to get beyond being the new artist? And you want some attention, you want some exposure. Well, the thing is, you could go to the Soul Train, but even at Soul Train, there had a expectation, okay, which was a good thing. You know, people had an expectation that if you go on Soul Train, you are good, plain and simple. Okay. Don was able to construct a situation where if you got onto Soul Train as a guest, you're good. Meaning that people expected you to be talented. You know how to entertain the crowd. Okay. You may not get exactly what you want as an artist, but you were able to entertain the crowd and you're able to make a big impact across the nation because you're on a nationally televised show. So what, you know, it was some good for Don, some good for them. Because the Soul Train, if you think about how Soul Train operated, y'all, you can do the show without the artists coming on air. The show didn't need artists. You know, it was a place where young Black folks could go and they could dance, they could express themselves, they can be who they wanted to be, not necessarily trying to fit into a corporate image at that particular moment. And a lot of folks liked it because, you know, it was a feeling of our music is not really out there like that. Okay. There's places on television for other folks' music, but our music don't really get the exposure that it could. So when you think about October of 1971, well, Don Cornelius gave Black people a place to present themselves. Now, when you think about it, that's progress. Okay. It may not come in the way people thought that progress should come, but that is progress. 1971, You done created a hub for Black artists. And if you make it onto Soul Train, you would have there would be an impact in your record sales. Your record sales will go up because y'all, this is where certain artists got to quote unquote get on. You may be doing your thing musically, but the nation didn't really know who you were. When you make it to Soul Train, which means they already found you to be a talented artist, boom, now you hit the big stage and now you somebody. And when you think about it, y'all, because you got to think about the human condition. What did Soul Train do for you as an artist? Now, as an audience, we gonna enjoy watching people dance. We enjoy the little games they played on Soul Train. You know, the iconic Soul Train line was presented to the world. Okay, a dance that still impacts people to this day. How many times have you went to a party or event and someone has done a Soul Train line? You know, we can be real about that. Who went to some form of party or event and didn't do a Soul Train line? Who can literally say they've never participated in the Soul Train line? Not many folks. You know, not many folks today can say they've never been in a Soul Train line. Okay? And maybe you're a little younger and you at least saw the Soul Train line. You may not know what it was at the time. Maybe you're a little kid. But you saw the Soul Train line because it impacted things. It impacted Black America, period. All right. Now, as an artist, what do I want to do? I'm trying to make it in the music game. I want to sell records. You know, I want to be popular. I want to be loved by the people. And let's keep it real, y'all. If Black folks love you, other people start loving you too. Okay? Shout out to Chef Mike's Round Table. He said, I'm the one that starts the line. Yeah, now, you know, that Soul Train line it was just impactful, period. Real talk, y'all. The Soul Train line was impactful, period. So as you think about what happened with Soul Train, again, y'all, you didn't need to be Soul Train didn't necessarily need a big artist to come on the show. It didn't necessarily need that. Could it have played for a lot of years without those big artists? I'm gonna say yes. Would it have went just as long a period of time? Maybe not necessarily, because I got to give credit to star power. You know, there is star power out there, so maybe it wouldn't have lasted quite as long without stars coming there. But it didn't necessarily need stars to come there. So Soul Train and people in the world of music created a great relationship with each other. You do your thing. You had them Soul Train lines. You keep the young people in there. You had people, you know, bringing the show attention. And we gonna use this as a place where we can go and introduce ourselves to the world or to the crowd that hasn't heard of us yet. Because you could be good locally, you may not be good nationally. You may be working your things here and there, y'all. This is long before a streaming service. Okay, this is long before a streaming service. What is some of the best advertising you could do back in the day? Some of the best advertising you could do is to go somewhere to be seen. Okay? You got to go somewhere to be seen. You want to get your records played on the radio stations? A lot of things going on, a lot of rumors about payola. I mean, there's been people who've confirmed payola exists. And, you know, what do I mean by payola? You got to go to the radio stations and pay DJs or certain folks to get your record airplay. You know, a trade-off people had to make. Now, what you could do as a talented individual, you could go to Soul Train. Okay? Now, Soul Train didn't accept trash. Now, I'm going to tell you that. Soul Train did not accept trash. They wanted you to be an actual good, talented artist. And y'all, some of the greats have appeared on Soul Train. And that's just real talk. The greats have appeared on Soul Train. When you think about musical greatness, a lot of those people that you would come up with have been on the Soul Train. So I'm going to say there was a great relationship between artists and the Soul Train because they both helped each other. And I think they both extended each other. Okay, you can get your career extended by going to Soul Train. And Soul Train was getting extended because it was bringing in star power on a regular basis. And Don Cornelius, I'm going to say, he handled things as a businessman, not perfectly, of course, because there's no one perfect. All right. Even as I was doing some research into Don Cornelius, I found out some interesting things, you know. And do y'all know what? Don Cornelius didn't think rap was going to make it. Yep, he was one of them people, y'all. He was one of them people. He didn't think rap was going to make it. He thought it would fizzle out. Wasn't really interested in it, but understood it's, hey, this is how the world is going. This is part of the things I have to deal with. So I'm not going to say he ever had a love for rap. I'm not going to say that. But he knew that as the world changed, he needed to even start bringing some of those folks on his show. Okay. I believe it was the Sugar Hill Gang might have been the first rappers to appear on his show. Y'all know they had that hit, The Rapper's Delight. So Don was there for a whole lot of what happened in Black American music. He was there for a whole lot of it. Now, of course, there were things that were happening before television even happened. I'm not saying that this is not the case. I'm saying he was there for, a good evolution of how music came and went. Okay. Shout out to Shaka Nulu. I see you in the building. How you doing, brother? Okay. So he was there for a whole lot of it. Y'all, he saw how Black American music, changed again. Because it has changed over time. We still have certain things in place, but Black American music evolves over time. And he was there for a lot of that change. Now, as an artist, you should be able to appreciate being able to go to Soul Train. Because what do people want to do? They, it's natural to want to be loved by your own. It's a very natural thing. So now if you're an artist, you got some talent, you're trying to make it in the world as an artist, you Black, where you want to go? Yeah, think about it from an artist perspective. Where do you want to go? Maybe it's 1980. Maybe it's 1990. Where do you want to go? You want to go to Soul Train. Now, I'm going to say shout out to Don because he created a situation where people start taking Black artists a lot more seriously. I'm going to say that based on my research, he seemed to have helped other people take Black artists far more seriously. And I saw Soul Train as a tradition because I remember growing up, of course, Soul Train is already on air. Okay. Now, truth be told, we wasn't supposed to be watching it in our house. Eventually, even though we wasn't supposed to be watching it, because I was being raised in a quote unquote good Christian home. So I wasn't supposed to be watching it. One of us discovered, I don't know who discovered it, but one of us discovered the Soul Train. Okay. And even though it was quote unquote dangerous for us to watch it at home, we was out here taking risks, y'all. We was out here. Me and my brothers and sisters, we was taking risks on Saturday mornings to see what we could see about who's going to be on Soul Train. All right. Now, even though that was a long way from 1971, it still was a place where you could find out what's going on in the world of Black music. Okay. Now, of course, he eventually had other artists come on there too. I saw a clip where Elton John was on Soul Train. And I mean that's big, you know. Now I don't know if people knew what Elton John's situation is as far as was he about him being LGBT or not. I don't know if they knew that when he appeared, but just to have a big white artist on the show, you know, I'm gonna just say very interesting. Shout out to Shaka Lulu. He said, "You lived in a town like the movie Footloose. Dancing is for the devil." Hey man, all I'm gonna tell you, brother, if you got caught watching Soul Train, as a kid, I'm gonna say it felt like you might have paid with your soul. You might have paid with your soul. That was a dangerous train for us to get on. It was a dangerous train for us to get on. But I will say, as you know, as you start to get some exposure in the world, you start finding out this was something a lot of black folks was doing all over America every Saturday morning. And y'all, you know, I think this is a good, beautiful thing, y'all. Saturday mornings, you knew what black people was doing. Okay, you knew what black people was doing. You knew where we at. We watching the Soul Train. All right. I guess it did give a lot of great artists some exposure. It gave some black folks some exposure. And it also got some black behinds exposed. Because I mean, I know I wasn't the only kid. I know I wasn't the only kid out here living dangerous, y'all. I wasn't the only one. Some of y'all had some rules too. So I know it wasn't just me. Okay. I know it wasn't just me. You know, sometimes it can seem like it's just me, but I know it wasn't just me. All right. So Soul Train got some behinds exposed to a couple belts or two. Might have felt like your Soul Train ran over you, but you know that's the beauty of television at the time. It's the beauty of Don Cornelius at the time. You know, a man that cared enough about black people where he wanted to, you know, he wanted to present us in a way that he believed would help move us forward in society. Now you'd have to go to some of the interviews and whatnot to kind of figure out what Don Cornelius was on. But Don Cornelius was being respected by some of the, you know, I mean the legends out here, y'all. The legends was talking good about Don Cornelius. Okay. He became a staple for Black American music. Okay, he did become a staple for Black American music. And if you was somebody in Black American music, you wanted to find yourself on Soul Train. Because again, it's a every Saturday morning thing. And y'all, when you think about it, what happens when you appear on television way back when? Now, I understand there's a lot of other music television stuff that has happened since. Okay. I'm pretty sure it'd be a long time before there's no musical television shows. You know, you got shows like 106 and Park out there. You know, similar concept. You know, you got white shows that did it. You know, MTV did a lot or whatever. Okay. Black artists did have eventually had other places to really go to also shine. But of course, everybody want to be liked by their own. And it wasn't like that all the time. All right. So when I started seeing the clips of some of the people who actually appeared on the show, okay, I saw the greats. Okay. Matter of fact, I see a couple of folks throwing some stuff out there in the chat. Okay. Now I did say that even Elton John ended up appearing on the show. I was a little surprised, but I understand because I understand that's where the greats went. So shout out to Sirius Rod. He say Bowie and Gino was on there. Okay. Shout out to you, Sirius Rod. Gregory Scotland says that Ohio Players with Junie was on there. Okay. Shout out to you, Gregory Scotland. All right. So even other people who were not black, you know, you want to get in with black folks, gone over to the Soul Train. That's how you do that. You want black folks to pay attention to you. You know, you want to prove you got some musical chops. And let's be realistic about this, y'all. You know, if you want to prove that you was good at music, you need, get some black folks to like you. Get some black folks to like you. So where do you go? You want to get some black folks to like you? Maybe it's 1984. You want some black folks to like you? Go to the Soul Train. That's what you do. You know, it's different when you got a black people stamp of approval. You know, that's just a different thing. We didn't call the FBA back then, but for the most part, when you got FBA approval, you went to a different level, even as a white artist. Okay, when black people can say, they white, but they cold, that meant something. Okay, I believe it still does. It's to this day, it still means something. Okay, black folks giving you a stamp of approval does a great thing for folks' careers. And again, y'all, he gave a place where black people can help make a career. Because when you went to Soul Train, you got to share a stage with legends. Well, not sharing at the same time, but you use a stage that other legends have been on. Because all the top people that I know of in music, and I told y'all before, I didn't even get to listen to quote unquote world of music as a kid. I grew up in a good Christian home. I didn't even get to see it like I wanted to see it. But all the top artists had been there. Okay. Shout out to y'all missing it. Some of the folks in the chat. Landon says Al Green, shout out to you. Shout out to you. I saw Marvin Gaye on there, y'all. Marvin Gaye was on Soul Train. Now, Marvin Gaye was a big name. May he rest in peace. He was a big name in music. He did his thing. And he left a pretty good impact for the short period of time he was able to do his thing. Because unfortunately, his life got cut short. Made a pretty good impact. So, I know he was one of the top people out there. Shout out to Landy. He said Barry Wright, the Jackson 5. Yeah, to be an artist, you're doing what you have to do to make it in the music game. To be an artist and you get to go and perform somewhere that the Jackson 5 had performed, okay? You get to go somewhere where Al Green performed. For an artist to share those type of stages, those venues, those locations has a real good impact. And it's a lot of times, again, that's you sharing your music with people that you're not going to be able to reach on your own. I understand in 2025, we got streaming services and all that. I get all that. You put an album, you could just put it up on some streaming services, not even necessarily advertise. You might get a little lucky. Somebody may find your thing, which is obscure at that moment, and then they put you on something. Okay, they might put you in a TikTok video. Okay. And people say, oh, that's a nice sound. Let me use that sound too. And it can help, bring you up as an artist. There wasn't no streaming services back in the day, y'all. We talking about something that started in 1971. Wasn't no streaming services. Okay. I don't think streaming services was even, if my memory is correct, it may not even been created to, I don't know. It might have been in the 2000s when streaming services was created. I'm not even sure if the 90s even had streaming services. The first one I remember, I remember when Napstar started to do a thing, and it technically, as far as I know, probably became the first streaming service for musically anyway. That might have been in the 2000s, but that even came out. So back in the day, being on television had a great impact on your career. Being able to get a TV gig. And when you think about it, the main TV gigs was like some of the award shows. If you can somehow get in a position to possibly win an award, then you get to be on TV like that. Other than that, you just had like special appearances. Okay. Music videos helped a lot. Okay, when that happened, music videos did help a lot. A lot. Shout out to Gregory Scholar. He said, "Yeah, streaming services took off in the 2000s." So yeah, now we talking about 1971 all the way up into the 2000s. It just wasn't the same thing. Music television started to unfold. I'll say probably maybe in the 80s. You had you know, maybe late 80s, they might have started really pushing music television. I know it be starting to become a thing in the 90s. So before all them folks got started, there was a guy named Don Cornelius who said, you know what we need? We need a place so our artists can shine every week. Now, this may not seem like something big when you think about it from a 2025 perspective. This is huge in a 1971 perspective. This is huge. Y'all, this was a game changer. This was also a place that because Soul Train became what Soul Train was. Okay. Y'all think about this. This is where a lot of people who were still being a little resistant to the black dollar had to just come up off it. Okay. They had to come up off it. Meaning what? What was Soul Train really doing? Soul Train was attracting a black audience on Saturday mornings. Or maybe it was early Saturday afternoon, depending on where you live, I guess. Okay. So now what do you do when Black America starts looking at this particular TV show on a regular basis? What does this mean? This means the black dollar. If you wanted black people to shop somewhere, if you wanted black folks to buy a product, now, folks was looking at, well, the black dollar don't mean that much. Okay, it don't mean that much. But now you got a show that's basically pulling in a ton of black people every week. See, during Soul Train, you got a chance to advertise your business to this black audience that you have previously ignored. Or you didn't take that serious. Okay? You didn't take it that serious. But now you got a chance to put your product or your service out there. And if black people use something, let's keep it real, y'all. It starts to get out. That's what I know about Black America. When we use it, other people want to use it. Now, I can't even tell you possibly why people copy us so much. I mean, the black man is the most copied man on the planet, as far as I can tell. All right. Now we using something, our women are using something. People see that it's accepted amongst black people. Now it can take off. Okay. Shout out to Troublesome 36. He say, shout out to Calvin and the McDonald's commercial. Is that what we saw that all the time? Is that what we saw that all the time? Was it Soul Train? Where was that Soul Train where we saw Calvin all the time? But see, if you wanted to reach black people, you get your commercials on during Soul Train. All right. See, there has been some very big advertisement things that have happened. The biggest thing in America when it comes to advertising, we all know, is the Super Bowl. Okay, we know that to be the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl then took over as the thing when it comes to advertising in America. But every week, you could talk to black folks if you put your commercial on during Soul Train. Now think about this from a marketing perspective, y'all. You some marketing VP, you somebody who needs to, do a great job and shock the people that employ you. You a person trying to save your business. What could you do from 71 and beyond? Okay, beyond 71 in October. Soul Train started October 2nd, 1971. All you had to do was get your stuff on during the Soul Train. So now that you market to black folks, and what have white America, for whatever white America's reasons, what has white America done for some reason? For whatever reason, when black people like it, they start getting it too. Okay. We went from a time where they could have it and we couldn't, to once we get it, once we as black people get it, other people want it too. Now think about that during Soul Train. It's 1975. You want to advertise your product, Even if that product was shout out to Serious Rob, even if that product was a Jerry curl. If that's what you had, that's what you had. Shout out to all the people who wore Jerry curls back in the day, y'all. Okay. We not gonna pretend it wasn't some fly brothers out there with Jerry curl. We not gonna pretend that wasn't the thing. The Jerry curl definitely had its time. I'm pretty sure you can still find people in certain places wearing it now, but we not gonna pretend the Jerry curl did not have its time. Okay, the Jerry curl definitely had its time, and I'm pretty sure more than one Jerry curl commercial has aired throughout those years on Soul Train. I'm pretty sure that happened. Okay, I'm pretty sure that happened. Now the thing is, the Soul Train. Shout out to Landon again. He said the Mass Curl commercial. Now this is the thing, y'all. Whether we realize it or not, what was happening was Don Cornelius was helping shaping black power in America. This is the thing. He was helping to shape black power in America. Now, people may say, well, what he did wasn't that big a deal. Okay. Shout out to Shark. He say, man, basically he just put a show for people to go dance on. And I understand that. And I understand that perspective. And I cannot even say you're wrong. But what I can say, when you did things way back then, and you could start, you start helping shape how America is going to move. You created a show that, let's keep it real, word of mouth is the best advertising out there, y'all. There's nothing stronger than word of mouth. When your friend tell you to check something out, the chance of you checking that thing out increased dramatically. Word of mouth has always been the best type of advertising. That's why I even say at the beginning of my show, use some word of mouth. Okay. I do ask people for that because I know it's the most powerful form of advertising. Once something is endorsed by someone you care about, someone you love, someone you appreciate, somebody you cool with, it's a different type of power in that advertising than what any person in some marketing boardroom can come up with. Word of mouth is always the best. And based on what I understand, Soul Train benefited a lot from word of mouth. Okay. Now, I'm not going to say it didn't happen. I was a kid. Soul Train was still on there when I was a kid. I don't remember Soul Train commercials. I ain't going to say it didn't happen. I'm sure they had to have happened. But I do not remember Soul Train commercials. To me, Soul Train was this thing you did as a black person on Saturday mornings or early Saturday afternoon. That's what you did. It wasn't a whole lot of conversation about it. I remember as a little kid, you watch it, you get up, you watch the Saturday morning cartoons. I'm just keeping it real. You know what I'm saying? Y'all could do it any way you want to do it. This is what I remember. You get up, okay, you didn't necessarily have to move exactly because there wasn't no school or nothing like that. So what did you do? You get up, you watch your Saturday morning cartoons, and then after the Saturday morning cartoons, you turn on Soul Train and you see what's popping in the world of music. You see what's popping with black folks. You turn on Soul Train to see the newest and coolest dance move. You saw Soul Train so you could go to the school and be the first one to do this and to do that. And you got cool points for it. That's how I remember what Don Cornelius did for Black America. That's what I remember. Soul Train, you watched that, them people did that. Did you see that move? Now you want to be the first dude at the school to do the move. Okay, and you was gonna get your props for it. You was gonna get your props. That's how it was. Okay. A lot of stuff was going on in the background, but that's what was popping. It was Saturday morning cartoons. You get your little cereal together or whatever. You watch your cartoons and you turn over to the Soul Train. Okay. And as a kid, this is your way of peeking into early adult life. Because when you're a kid, what you want to do? You want to be a young adult. You want to know what's cool. What the folks is doing. You want to see what your sister wouldn't let you see because she wouldn't let you hang out with her. You wanted to see what your brother wouldn't let you see because he wouldn't let you hang out with him because you was too young. So what'd you do? You watched the Soul Train to see what's popping out there. That's what you did. Okay. You found out who the new artist was because you was watching the Soul Train. Now the new artist could come on Soul Train and then sell a bunch more records because there was some type of Soul Train effect where an artist could be out there, but when you get on Soul Train, now the music sales pick up. So they didn't call it that, but based on what I've been looking at, because y'all know I tell you I research stuff before I come on air and just talk about it. Okay. Soul Train had an effect on your music sales. So there was a Soul Train impact that was going on. So, once you got approved to be on the Soul Train, now you can really make some stuff happen in the music arena and it could take your career to a new level. Point blank, period. You got the kids that want to see what's new. You got the teenagers that want to be in the in crowd. You had the artists that wanted the Soul Train effect. It was a great blend for all those folks. Plus, you had marketing agencies that wanted to get their products out to black people. And what better chance do you have than just to simply run a commercial through Soul Train? Maybe an audience you hadn't tapped into. You may not have understood the economic power of black people. But boom, if you can get your commercial on during Soul Train, now you can see just how strong that was. Now, I get it. Don Cornelius, for some people, may be looked at as just some guy who hosted some show. And we got a right to look at people the way we want to. You can look at that as this guy who just hosted some show. Again, y'all, I don't think there was a executive producer that was black before Don Cornelius. I'm not saying black folks wasn't on television. I'm not saying that. I ain't say black people didn't have no jobs in television. But to be an executive producer was a new thing. One young lady, she said that when she went to Soul Train, now she saw the Soul Train. She saw that it had this great, great brother, great voice hosting the Soul Train. It was a place where she could see black artists on the Soul Train. But when she got to the Soul Train and she started seeing black people working behind the cameras, all the other stuff that was going on at Soul Train, because I understand it, the artist gonna get the eyes, the host will get the eyes, even the dancers will get the eyes. But when you went there and you saw all those black people working, she said she literally burst into tears. She burst into tears because she saw so many black people working at Soul Train. Now I'm gonna say that's a good feeling. Okay. I'm also say shout out to Black Uru because he said that people make these claims that black men can't work together. He said that's a new thing. Where they show was working together at the Soul Train. Okay. They show was working together at the Soul Train. Now, y'all got to think about this. A black man pulling off this TV show in the 1970s as the executive producer. He wasn't just a host. It was his show. Okay. He understood the importance of owning it and being able to craft it the way he wanted to. And let's keep it real. When you craft something the way you wanted to, you're going to offend somebody at some point. You're going to step on some people's toes at some point. I'm not going to even say, that every moment was the best moment. I saw a clip of Marvin Gaye. He didn't like the fact that he had this lip sync on Soul Train. So the next time he came to Soul Train, he said he had to, Don Cornelius had to play him in basketball. That was like a condition he made for when he come back to the Soul Train. And based on the story I heard, Don said Marvin Gaye beat the brakes off of him. That's what he really said. He beat the brakes off. He said he scored several baskets. I didn't score any. Now, to think about this as a child or a teenager or even a young adult, to see Marvin Gaye playing Don Cornelius on a Saturday morning on the Soul Train, that had to be mind-blowing. That had to be mind-blowing. That had to be an extremely enjoyable memory for the people who saw it live. Okay? This show helped black people gain respect, not just in the music world, but in America, period. It was us showing America and beyond that when it comes to this thing called music, we the best of the best. We the top of the top. And we gonna do it bigger and better than everybody else. Okay? Shout out to Serious Rod. I did mention that earlier. He said Don was a Chicago policeman before a businessman. He sure was. He sure was. And I'm gonna say, when you think about Don Cornelius' life, I was about to call him Don King, another Don. But when you think about Don Cornelius' life, he showed that you can just be a regular, everyday guy one day, but you can die an icon. Okay? You may start off regular, but you can die an icon. And to see it, y'all, as I saw people talk about Don Cornelius, there was a whole lot of respect people had for this man. People who were in the game, the music game, there was a whole lot of respect folks had for the man. Okay. And I can understand why. Yes, he had the smooth voice. Let's just keep it real. Don Cornelius had a smoother voice than most regular people. Okay. He definitely had a smoother voice than most folks. It just is what it is. He has a standout voice. I'm glad he was able to use it in a good way. But the man definitely had a standout voice. All right. Now, people respected him because as an artist, I can get to your show and get that Soul Train impact that an artist would be looking for. I can get that advertisement that an artist would be looking for. I can get those record sales. I can get those concert sales because I got a stamp of approval to be on a show where the best come on. I mean, let's think about it, y'all. When you talk about black music and the best, who didn't go to Soul Train? The man had everybody on there. Okay. I done seen Prince on Soul Train. Well, and I'm talking clips, y'all, because I've watched Soul Train, but I watched it as a kid. Okay, I watched it as a kid. I was old enough to watch me some Soul Train before Soul Train, before Don had to step away from the Soul Train. I was able to still watch it as a kid. Okay, so yeah, I've seen a lot of clips of things that have happened on Soul Train. So yeah, I saw Prince. I didn't see him live. I didn't see him when he was on the show, but I saw Prince on Soul Train, which I have discovered when I did a grand finale on Prince that this is one of the greatest musical genius. Well, probably the greatest musical genius of the modern era. I would say that. Okay, Prince seems like he was one of. Well, now I'm gonna say Prince seems like he was the most musically gifted person of the modern era. I'll say that. Okay. Yeah, I know Michael Jackson out there, and Michael Jackson was truly gifted, but Prince seemed like he, as a musical genius, I mean, he ain't to be played with. I'll leave it at that. I ain't gonna start no debate about Michael and Prince, but Prince wasn't to be played with. Okay, he wasn't to be played with. So when I started realizing, Michael Jackson was on there as an adult, not the Jackson 5, which was on there. So they were there too. Prince was on there. Marvin Gaye was on there. Boys to Men, I believe, was on there. Anybody who you believe is one of the greats seemed to be on there. Okay. So now I understand. I have a little bit more understanding why a lot of folks in the musical world had such respect for him. And the brother was always dressed smooth and sharp. Don Cornelius did not present himself, in a less than situation anytime Soul Train came on. Okay. Anytime. Okay. The brother was always suited and booted, as they say, dressed to the nines. And I mean, people may not have realized it, but he said that his goal was to make sure people have proper love and respect for Black people in general and Black artists. So he was on a mission to improve Black America. Now, you may not have seen it that way because to you, it may have just been a show for people to get up and dance to or to just watch some new music artist. But Don Cornelius went through a lot of trouble to craft the best image he knew that he could make for Black America. So this man had a love and passion for making Black America look good. How can you not respect that? How can you not respect that? Now, we got a guest that done came up, Black Guru himself, okay? And I guess being folks who got a gentleman who has a couple years on, you may have a even more appreciation for what Don Cornelius was able to do while he was with us. So you have the mic, my brother. Much respect to you.
Hey, Roger, thanks for having me. I hope you're doing well. I hope I'm coming in clear.
Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, I have a very, well, and somebody touched on it, I think you mentioned it briefly, a great Black Chicagoan, a towering figure of artistry and music specifically from Chicago. Guy went from being, like you say, he was kind of regular guy, then became a local DJ. Shout out to the legendary WBON, WCIU, some great names in radio of yesteryear in Chicago in particular. To using a particular perspective about music but also about discipline. I think he had a military background, which I think probably led him into becoming a police officer at some point before he put that aside to go into DJing and then to creating Soul Train. So he had a particular uh, background and makeup. Don was very Don had that quality that only black men, black American men. I dare say it, forgiveness to everybody else. But you could only really see in black American men. Now, sadly, much of it's going away, where they could be stately and elegant and august. And he was pretty tall. I think he was like about 6'3" or 6'4" or something like that. Very elegant man, but very soulful all at the same time. And very, like it'll be a stone cold gas. I mean, so you hear this guy very formal, very stately, suit and tie and whatever, but it was just this groundswell of soul that came from him, that gave, that sort of emanated within everything about Soul Train. Soul Train was not just about, although obviously it was about music and celebration of musical, but it was a celebration of the aesthetic, of the black aesthetic at that time, particularly of the 70s. Remember, this is a say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud decade. This was the Afro decade. Daichiki Day, the whole search for, James Brown and the Jackson Five, and just the whole look, the Commodores, and just so much of the beauty of blackness of that time, of family, of music, of dancing, of all these beautiful and lipsome black people. We were a lot thinner back then, much more svelte back then. Sadly, especially our ladies were. I mean, it's difficult for me to look at old Soul Train videos because it breaks my heart about how different black women look today versus the black women back then. They were so beautiful back then. They were so naturally beautiful back then. And he was kind of a impresario, a kind of ringleader, a kind of director of the black aesthetic of that time. And it was so powerful and so influential. There was a thing where at some point Dick Clark tried to take it over, and then he couldn't take it over, so he created a copycat version. And then there was I think Jesse Jackson and those guys. I think I remember kind of going after him, and eventually Dick Clark backed off. But because prior to that point, he didn't really, except for like these kooky guest appearances on this white man show or that white man show, you didn't really see very many black artists. So this was the first show where you had a concentration feature of black music and the aesthetics that came with the music, the dance that came with the music, and it was much freer. You had American Bandstand, and it was very white and very white American, and so you had Soul Train that came, and it really accentuated the greatness of black music, the aesthetics, the platform shoes, the bell bottoms, afros, wingtip shirts, man. It was the Soul Train line, man. I mean, where you create this way of where people dance and everybody celebrate them dancing and encouraging, featuring them people dancing. It was very much a black thing, probably very much at its core, very much kind of an African sort of thing. What he brought to television, what he brought to music was something that you could never underestimate and you can never copy really what he did, the brilliance of what he did. Shout out to the late great Don Cornelius. I could talk more about it, but I guess I'll end my opening statement there.
All right. Well, we appreciate you. Well, You can have a lengthy opening. You can have a lengthy opening statement when you're here by yourself, y'all. If it's just me and you can get you a lengthy opening statement. But you folks that want to have them long
Well,
opening
I
statements.
mean, look, I mean, the first thing we talked about every Monday, man, every Monday at class, when we got to school, the very first thing we talked about was Soul Train. The very first thing we talked about, very first thing we did was try to emulate what we saw on Soul Train. Very first thing we tried to get our mamas to buy us was what we saw featured on Soul Train.
Now,
You know, the moves, the way Don spoke, you know, whatever the Jackson Five, whatever spins Michael did, we were trying to do it.
and I'm
The
saying that
pop locking, you know, it was just a total cultural vibe. It wasn't just a show. It was a total cultural vibe and influence.
I think Soul Train created a certain experience that you would have from week to week to week, because especially toward the beginning, because things came after. I'm not gonna say other, music television was taken a little bit more serious after Soul Train became what it was. But beforehand, because you got to think about the human condition. Soul Train came on Saturday. Yeah, you go back to school. What are we going to talk about for the next week? What happened on Saturday? Because ain't a new Soul Train popping till next Saturday. So when you went on there as an artist, you basically got eyes for the week. And I do want to touch on the fact that Soul Train became a place, even though you may not have really heard about it, as I was doing my research, it came a place that dictated how people dress. The fashion was basically just as important as the music, because if you were going to go on the Soul Train, you was going to be dressed fresh, plain and simple. So how you dressed on Soul Train was a big deal, and because people dressed a certain way on Soul Train, of course you had a lot of folks that wanted to mimic certain people who were stars, and I'm gonna say some of the people who aren't necessarily stars, even some people in the crowd. Because good and well, if you finna go dance on Soul Train, and how it was, to my understanding, is they didn't have like paid dancers on Soul Train. It was you could come on there, you go for free. He you didn't have paid dancers appearing on television shows like this. So that's just like, that was like a customary thing. They didn't really pay dancers. So you are a person just trying to get on the Soul Train so you can be seen. You gonna dress your
Yeah, I
best.
mean, and and people would try to get in and use whatever charms they had. Obviously for women, they could use, as James Brown famously said, a woman got to use what she got to get what she wants. So you had that kind of thing. You mentioned payola earlier. Payola wasn't just cash. Payola, there was a lot of ass in payola as well. There was a lot of tricking off on local DJs, to move some product on the radio as well. So yeah, and it definitely worked. I mean, because I knew women or young women or girls or whatever, who got on Soul Train. And we also heard about how they got on Soul Train.
So they was living up to the Soul Train lane.
Hey,
Had a different type of Soul Train going on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, different kind of train. Yeah.
I'm sure they felt it in their soul. But we got some new guests coming up. So let me turn it over to Kevin. 3905 is in the building. You got it, my brother, and then we'll give it to Gold P coming up right behind you. Go ahead. How you doing, brother?
Man, fellas, so train. Man, I used to love that show, man. I'm old as all get out, bro. Guru's on point today. He can have my time if he wanted. God dog it, I love the way he talk about it, man. Soul Train was everything. I think it was the beginning of our push forward into cultural dominance as a people. This is when white folks start saying, "Wait a minute, man, those black folk over there, man, they having a good time." And I looked at Don Cornelius, man. The brother was so well spoken, so well dressed, comported himself so well on camera. He just showed uh, um, everybody on television like how black folk carried themselves and dressed themselves, and how we had a good time, and it wasn't no foolishness going on. This dude, man, he was like our greatest club promoter ever, like ever. The first great club promoter was Don Cornelius, man. I love this show, man, and you guys are absolutely right. Something to talk about, something to emulate all week long. Man, I see this dude. I seen James Brown, and man, doing all them James Brown dances. Oh my God, bro, man, I can talk about this forever. But yeah, man, this is great impact on my youth. Great impact on the use of everybody around me, man. And Don Cornelius deserves all his flowers for the positive things that he brought to the black community through Soul Train, man. This was absolutely fantastic, man. So I land my plane right there.
I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. Gold P, you got it, my brother. How you doing?
Man, what's happening? What's happening?
Happening?
Peace. What's happening? Good early to everybody. Hey, man. Hey, shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to everybody on the panel. Shout out to you, Roger. You know, this is definitely you speaking to our age, brother. You know, I am familiar with Soul Train, brother, and you know, during this time, hey, we used to watch the premier time to watch was when they were coming down the line, man.
Come on, man.
Everybody was coming down the line, and what did we do? Form our own line in the house. Say we gonna come down the line too. That's all. We was coming down the line too, man, and we would do those. First of all. We would definitely watch cats who were doing some interesting dances, right? I mean, they was showing out when they was coming down the line, man. And one of the greatest shows was when Rerun was on that thing, man. I don't know if you guys remember.
Oh man! I know you did.
I know, man. Hey, Uru, I'm speaking to our age, right? Rerun was
Fred Berry is one of the greatest dancers who has ever lived. He don't get enough credit for what he did.
Pop locking. He was, and a lot of us, you know, I'm out of the West, and we was pop locking something. I mean, it would be a brother way up the street. We'll come out in the middle of the street, and it's go time, baby. We pop locking long distance. All right. And I'm saying that was the Soul Train line, man. Hey, Fred Berry, aka Rerun, he was pop locking on the regular, and there was some other cats who come. I mean, they was doing some definitely interesting type moves. They was doing some serious. That's where a lot of your choreography.
Fred was an incredible
choreography came from. Say again.
He was an incredible man because he was so big and hefty, and he moved like a fucking ballerina. He was an incredible. He was an incredible human being.
Hey, he was definitely moving, and wasn't nobody really moving like that. When it came,
nobody could outdance him. Nobody could outmove him, and he could get up off the floor like a damn volleyball player or something. He just was an incredible.
Keep it moving.
He was an incredibly athletic human being. Incredibly athletic.
He was definitely a pop blocker, and Rerun was one of the people on that show who inspired a lot of the different type of moves in pop locking, because pop locking was just taking off. Pop locking has always been there, but it was in a new era where pop locking took off, and Soul Train was the catalyst or the vehicle for pop locking to take off, because as time went on, you seen shows like Beat Street. You seen a lot of people who was doing In Living Color and those shows that took on a lot of people was doing a lot of these pop locking and popping and stuff like that. It was a vehicle on when Sugar Hill Gang came out. Those type of songs, when Play at Your Own Risk, a lot of those songs were inspiration to develop your choreography or your popping and your pop locking, and it became a thing. It became full out dance battles, and you had to know how to pop. You had to know how to lock to really establish yourself when it came to being in the entertainment game, especially music. And Soul Train was that vehicle. And I'll leave it at that. Go ahead. I know Chef Kitty came up. What's happening, Chef? I remember when you was on that show. I seen you. You was the one with the shirt off and the tie. You had the tie.
See?
That's funny.
I come in peace.
Yes, sir.
And Gold P trying to make me remember October 2nd, 1971, when he was a sophomore in college.
I was, sir. I was.
Ouch. Ouch.
I was on Soul Train at the time.
He was talking about, how Rerun came up, pop locking and everything. He ain't gonna tell you about the episode where he was on there. The song of the day was Earth Wind's Mighty Mighty, and he got down doing a version of the robot.
I was the inspiration.
Oh man!
But hey, Chef, at least I had my shirt on. You was the one coming down.
That's all right, though. That's all right. Did you see who I was dancing with? Because it was always that one Asian lady. Okay, don't play with me.
Everybody remember her, man. Everybody
remembers Sukiyana. Yeah, goodness.
Yeah, that's right. Everybody remembers her, man.
Listen, everybody remember the Asian girl. Everybody remember Rosie Perez.
Right?
And everybody remember the light-skinned dude with the hat and the glasses, the little police mustache. Right. He would always be walking around.
Right.
Turn this way, walk this way. Never dance. Just turn the pole.
Jacket over his shoulder.
Yeah, dog. I'm telling you. Listen, Soul Train was and will always be the standard. It is the standard.
Yes, sir.
See, okay, I'm gonna take us back just a little bit, and see, I can do this because one, I got Gold P who's up here. He old as hell, and two, I got Black Uru up here who is very wise. He knows more about these decades than we will ever understand. I appreciate Black Uru.
That was smooth, Mike. That was smooth. You're making up. You're making up for earlier sins, Mike. You're making up for earlier sins.
I think he said that exactly how it should have been said.
That's right. That's right.
Listen, I said what I said. I said what I said.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, going back to the 70s, 1971. Let's set the tone. All right. You remember I'm recalling this from things that my father told me about the 70s. Blue light basement parties. rent parties, raising some money parties. Okay. So you either gonna be in somebody's basement, somebody's living room. You understand what I'm saying? You're gonna be at somebody's house, a house party. And what would happen? The same music that you saw on Soul Train, that you heard on Soul Train, would be the same music that you would hear at the Blue Light Basement Party. Now, it's very important that you understand how Black folks are operating at this time. You go to work every day, you're getting beat down by the man, you ain't getting paid enough, system is against you, all of these things. And what do we do on the weekend? We go, we put some music on, we dance. See, what Soul Train did was took what happened in the Blue Light Basement Party and brought it to the light. Because in those Blue Light Basement parties, you would hear music like Earth, Wind, and Fire, the Dramatics, Parliament Funkadelic, the Commodores. You understand what I mean? You would hear bands that would actually sing and play instruments. Soul Train is one of the biggest reasons that we understand the Philly sound, the Philadelphia sound, because you have folks like the OJs coming out. You understand what I mean? So you would get together and you would play these songs on vinyl. This was not streaming. These were not CDs. These were actually albums, vinyl. And the way you actually make a record, you have to have a diamond tip that actually vibrates your vocal vibration into the wax, into the vinyl. So when you played that, as we're dancing, as we're moving, you know what we're doing? We're getting on the same frequency and we're healing ourselves. Oh, it was very, very therapeutic. That's why Black folks could always walk around smiling, still catching the short end of the stick, but we always somehow happy. Because we had music, we had entertainment that we could actually use to heal ourselves. Don Cornelius brought that to the television. And when he did that, every Saturday morning, by 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock if you're in Chicago, about 11 o'clock, Don Cornelius gonna come on. Hey, gang, welcome to the Soul Train. I'm trying to tell you, it was what you looked forward to. This is how you stayed cool, because we didn't have the internet. We didn't have social media. We didn't have Twitter. We didn't have Snapchat. You know what we had? We had a TV on Saturday, and we had to remember those dance moves, remember those new phrases through Sunday school and Sunday church until we got to school Monday, and hopefully we could be the first one to say it, to do it, to wear it, because that was our reality. Yeah, oh, and we'd be there. We'd be there getting it. I'm trying to tell you. Look. Soul Train was so big, especially among Black folks. It caused white folks to start American Bandstand.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yep.
But Casey Kasem was never, ever, ever gonna be Don Cornelius.
Right. Off top.
Well, and they tried to first they tried to take it from Don, and then when they couldn't take it, then they tried, because they created this copycat version of it. And I remember it briefly being on TV, and then it went away. I learned later it went away because Jesse Jackson and all them basically threatened to protest against the broadcasting station that featured, I think it's NBC, I'm not sure. Because these were Chicago boys, Jesse, Don Cornelius and whatever, they was all kind of linked up. And so when they tried to pull, Johnson, the publisher of Ebony and Jet Chicago, they were all linked up. So they were threatening a boycott of, this was the 70s. Like I say, this was the Say It Loud and I'm Black and I'm Proud decade. So it was a lot of concerns about, the uprising of the Negro, I guess. back then, and they relented. Dick Clark, they pulled the show and they backed off. But you
Yeah.
know, Soul Train, you can't really talk about, I think, modern black music and culture without talking about Soul Train, because for a time, you know, it was the precursor to the video. It was a precursor to a lot of these talk shows featuring black artists. You didn't, what you would have is, like I say, maybe you'd have a black artist, and usually it would have to be one of the very biggest black artists, you know, like maybe if the Jackson 5 had ascended to a certain level in white popularity, you would see them on I don't know, maybe the Tonight Show or something like that, you know, that kind of thing.
Right.
But you didn't have a lot of black artists appearing and being exclusively featured that way. And even when you might hear the music, you wouldn't necessarily see them. You'd hear the music on American Bandstand, for example, but you didn't necessarily see them. But obviously on the Soul Train, you saw the artist, and you heard they talked to the artist, and it was a
Mm-hmm.
back and forth, usually kind of humorous, usually kind of informative. They would talk about family things. They would joke about, you know, Michael would joke about Janet, you know, or whatever, that kind of thing. It was a very sort of holistic exchange of not just the music, but of the culture of black people. It's very unique, and it has definitely, it did very much positively influence the fashioning of the image of black people during that very precarious time.
And you know what else, Uru? Black Uru, you know what else? And I'm glad you said that. It made us feel like we were sitting around, especially when they did the interview. When Don Cornelius would interview the artists, it made us feel like we were sitting down and they were in our living room and we were family.
Yep.
We knew them because we were
Yep.
close. We understood them. The one that stands out of my mind the most is two of them actually. The interview he did with Stevie Wonder and the interview he did with Donny Hathaway. All of the Soul Train gang was around and they sitting around just like family. For real. And I mean,
Donny
it's like
Hathaway,
you
another great Chicagoan.
Yep.
Donny Hathaway, another great Chicagoan.
There will never ever be another Donny Hathaway. I promise you, there will never be another Donny Hathaway.
No.
That
Donny Hathaway,
velvet voice.
Donny Hathaway was those brothers. You listen to him sing and just almost just bring tears to your eyes. He has such a beautiful voice. It's just a uniquely remarkably talented black man.
For real.
Hey,
and I'm so glad that his daughter got his talent. Yeah. I'm glad his daughter got his talent because his daughter has and she has an impeccable voice. And she can do this thing with her voice where she can actually make two tones. Oh, it is amazing. Yeah. It is amazing to see. But see, these are the things that came from Soul Train. Soul Train. Look, everybody had a doggone brown spray bottle with a man and a woman on it. Both of them had an afro. And if y'all don't know what I'm talking about the Stay Soft Fro, the Afro Sheen. Oh yeah. Because if you didn't see nothing else, that's when you were going to see a commercial for Afro Sheen. The hippest trip in America.
The hippest trip in America.
Well, great. Look, you can bet your last money it's gonna be the Stone Gas, honey.
One of the greatest shows on there was Rick James and Tina Marie when they came on. Look, I mean that Fire and Desire was one of the greatest hits in our history.
It still is.
And Don could not get around that. Even though, because he was at odds with Rick James.
Yeah.
And Rick James had us, hey, I'm Rick James, And Rick James, when Rick James and Tina Marie came on the Soul Train, man, to do that fire. And Tina Marie, whether people like it or not, she had a one of the strongest voices out there, man. Okay.
Facts.
And when she came on the Soul Train and showed and proved that she was one of them, she was that girl. And Rick James was made sure she was that girl. It was one of the greatest shows, performances in Soul Train history. You know, and we do know Soul Train had a lot of artists, but one of the most memorable shows was Rick James and Tina Marie, because Rick James and Tina Marie were, when they came with that Fire Desire, that made a lot of babies. A lot of people made a lot of babies off that show, off that song, right?
Still making babies off of that song.
Still making babies off that, just man. Saying. And you know, Don, he even though he had a contentious type relationship with Rick, he still brought him. He still had him come up and perform. I mean, hey, look, man, the Soul Train had people come on there, in which Don didn't rock with a lot of them, but he understood the long run, the long game of it, and there were a lot of performers that came up who I mean, Harold Melvin, and I might be speaking my age here.
Man, Gold, if you don't go somewhere with them, I might be speaking my age. We know you old as hell already.
Look, Chef, man, I can agree. I was using the landline, but you was using Morse code. I'm just
all right. Let me
my return.
Okay.
With me.
Okay.
You being dangerous, though. You being dangerous, but I got two new guests. That came up. So let me turn it over to Soul Train Memory first, and then we'll get Perfect right after Soul Train Memory. You got it, my brother. You on mute. Maybe you don't know it. You on mute. Soul Train Memory. You on mute.
You popped and locked. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
All right.
You sound like you're coming in from Mars.
Yeah. I'm on the road right now. I'm not going to be here too long and everything else. But I remember Soul Train. I will never forget when I was watching Soul Train back in the early 80s. And when I first saw Tina, first of all, I thought I never had seen Tina Marie, perform and everything else. And I thought she was Stacey Lattishaw when I first heard her. I heard her sing Square Biz and everything else. Oh, that's when I was just rocking and just dancing on. I mean, I remember Square Biz on Soul Train and everything else. And what else did she sing too? Oh, but you have to give. I mean, if it wasn't for Soul Train, BET wouldn't have existed, in my opinion. I don't think it would have existed if it wasn't for Soul Train and everything else. And then MTV, they try to start their own white version of with their music, MTV with their own music station and everything else, trying to pop up white artists and everything else. But what MTV didn't know back then was that you had guys like David Bowie, Elton John that got their start on BET, not on BET, but Soul Train and everything else. I remember watching David Bowie all the time on that show. I was a huge fan of David Bowie when he was playing Let's Dance and everything.
Yeah, I remember him singing. I remember that. That was probably one of the worst performances on Soul Train.
Yeah, I remember him singing.
That was probably one of the worst performances on Soul Train, because David Bowie did not know that they were lip syncing at that time.
Yeah.
And he was struggling. If you go back and you look at the video now, you will see he is struggling. He will say it, and he has said it in interviews. I had no idea what I was doing up here. It was so hard. I was just so glad to get through it. He was struggling. The white boys couldn't do that.
But he was a regular on that show. Him, Elton John was on there, and Average White Band, and another group that was on there too was the Beastie Boys. That's how I started.
Well, Hall and Oates appeared on there several times. Michael McDonald. Yeah. I mean, you had a lot of blue-eyed. You had a lot of blue-eyed souls on Soul Train.
Yeah. So I mean, that's every time I was watching Soul Train, and my mom she was always into black artists, but when she saw like David Bowie, Elton John, and Michael McDonald, also my mom was sitting there just playing it, on her record and everything else. I said, where do you get that music from? Oh, Al, I was watching on Soul Train and everything else. And then next thing you know, weeks later, they're all there performing and everything else. And because of it, they were always popping up on the charts and everything else. One other thing I'm gonna land my plane. I think people, one of the greatest performances I heard was this Japanese jazz group called Hiroshima. Have you heard of that group?
I've heard of them.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And because of it, a year later we ended up watching them perform out in Colorado, and it was very much the way how they were performing on Soul Train and everything else. So I want to give a shout out to the late Don Cornelius for introducing me to that jazz group, Hiroshima. So I'm gonna let my play there.
Well, I would say that when Michael McDonald went on Soul Train, that is the time where that song I can't forget. That Soul Train.
I keep forgetting I'm in love anymore.
That was the vehicle for that song to blow up. I can't forget. And people today, look at that song and say, man, how did we ever understand what he was saying? Because he kind of sung under his beard. But we understood, right?
Hey, Gold.
Yes,
Gold
sir.
P. Is this the time when you were his roadie? Were you like the band manager at the time on the road with them?
I was the drummer.
Hey, one other thing. This was after he was playing with the Doobie Brothers. Is that where he was, Mike?
This was after he was playing with the Doobie Brothers.
I played before, during, and with it. I was there, brother.
The only reason they added brothers is because Gold P was there. Other than that, they would have been the Doobies.
I was the and we have been spoken, son. We have been spoken, literally, a doobie.
Hey,
listen. I'm sorry. Listen, Roger gonna keep some order. He already said Perfect is next, so I'm gonna stop clowning before I have to take my own suit. Go ahead, Perfect. Get on in here.
You mean I got the power to get you to take
No.
I didn't know.
You can't take my suit because I can make the suit. No, I voluntarily give up. But you know what? I'm finna hush. Go, Perfect. Go ahead.
You about to take your own suit? I thank you for giving me that power, man. You can take your own suit, bro. Daggone it. I think. Hey, and Roger, I want to know where am I at in the order of Ivy League, Elderly?
Way down there. Way down there.
That's what we doing, Chef. I can't get in no rank or nothing. Dang. Hey, Perfect. What's happening, man? Go ahead.
Salute, y'all. Salute. This is a great topic,
peace,
man.
What's happening?
Peace. That was one of my favorite Good morning, Black Uru. Good morning, Elder. That was one of my favorite What's Happening episodes. I'm not too familiar with the Doobie Brothers. My knowledge of the Doobie Brothers is when Rerun tried to sneak in the 8-track and record, and he got caught when it fell out of his belly. Right. That was one of my favorites. They would play that episode all the time. That's my extent of the Doobie Brothers.
That's because you young, perfect.
I just made 50. I'm excited to say it because so many people passing away.
You young.
I know.
Congratulations, Gold P made 50 30 years ago.
Welcome to the club of real men. Welcome to the club of real men.
Yeah.
So being that age, I was born in 75. So I came in the middle. So I do intimately remember being at my grandmother's house and the things Gold P talked about, and older cousins like Gold P not letting me go down the line. So I wanted to start off with that right there. You know what I'm saying? They would be right.
It's a childhood trauma.
Right. I'm 5 years old. I want to participate in the Soul Train line also because I don't got my moves down because I'm a child. Gold P and then would let me go down the line. They push you off the way.
I guess this is get at Gold P today. I'm gonna take it.
And other thing I would say about Don Cornelius and Soul Train is it was counterculture. And one of the things I would like to say is thank you, Roger, for bringing this up because a lot of us, I didn't realize how blessed I was and how great it was to grow up during that time. And I know a lot of people say that before us, but they never went through things like quarantine and the pandemic, not unless you go all the way back to World War I or World War II, where America was like it is now. So for a long time in America, the baby boomers had a cool ride, right? And this generation right now, they not having such a great ride. And I just feel very, very blessed to grow up black when I grew up black in America because I actually grew up black. And a lot of things we discussed today is people not growing up black in America. We have ADOS and these different fractions. I believe they're necessary, but it changes the upbringing and the identity. And I think a lot of times we're dealing with identity politics when we have conversations on the panel. And Don Cornelius was counterculture to American Bandstand. So American Bandstand would come on and I would see Gold P and them and they would be cleaning the house. But the house would be clean. And this is another thing about black culture. The house would be clean so that we could watch Soul Train and dance. You was not dancing in the living room because we only had one TV if it wasn't spotless, right? So it was just a blessing to grow up in this time. This is real talk. Like I was talking to my wife. My wife is Sicilian, right? So I was just explaining to her about what it is to be black and our relationship with cleanliness is next to godliness. And certain things just didn't happen until things were absolutely clean. This is part of being black in the 70s, right? It was more to it than just this show. This show, which is why it's in curriculum in a lot of movies when they go back, because it was integral to what it was to be black in America, right? This is where you tuned in for your blackness, right? And without it, and children not growing up without it, I see the lack in identity, right? And Don Cornelius, his voice, the opportunities he provided, the originality, the culture, it was counterculture. And it was showing black culture on a level that had never been seen, right? Because before that, Elvis and everybody else took our music. So now they're seeing black culture on a different level, like people happy, people with money, people dancing. And then that rolled into the 80s with the opulence, right? But that's what I wanted to bring up, the fact that Soul Train was counterculture to American Bandstand and how it affected black identity in America. And I say thank you to Don Cornelius, because I think he knew that. He always kept it. He didn't sell it. He kept it what it was because he knew what it was to black culture. Like the Jet magazine, right? My auntie was on the cover of Jet magazine. She lived in the Geneva Tower projects, but she was famous because she was on the cover of Jet magazine. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of those things, man. It's black culture, Jet magazine, Soul Train, Ebony. We grew up in a time in America where it was blackness, beautiful, gorgeous black women, the penitentiary. And I also remember the penitentiary movies. I remember Sweetness. I wasn't even supposed to watch the movies, but Gold P would let me sneak in and watch a couple scenes, just.
Wait a minute. It's been going happy.
You wasn't supposed to be watching it either.
That's why.
Gold P, I'm sorry, but there is a 2-minute uninterrupted opening statement, sir. If he throw a shot at your old ass, you're just gonna have to take it for these 2 minutes. 2 minute uninterrupted opening statement. Perfect. Please continue.
I'm done.
Hey guys, I'm gonna drop down, but thank you for having this this show about the late Don Cornelius, bringing back memory lane, because I miss it badly. I miss Soul Train a lot. So thank you and everything else for Roger for bringing it up.
I agree.
Well, appreciate you dropping by. Yeah.
Hey, now I will say that I did have the transistor radio. Okay.
No, that's too easy. That's too easy. Nope, that's too easy. That's too easy. Nope, start another story. That's too easy.
You know what?
Yeah, in the chat talking about what is he talking about? What is a trend? Is that a sexual orientation? Gold P in the chat right now. They think Gold P is coming out. Gold P is
y'all wrong with that. Y'all
wrong with that, man.
Y'all wrong with that.
Transistor radio, not
totally
transistor.
Hey, you open the door. You open the door. I just happen to be in and y'all transforming in here. My bad.
You see how this work, man? Yeah, I just want to say I'm thankful for Chef, Uru, and Perfect for
salute
blessing me with that work, man.
Salute.
I am thankful, and you're right. You keep winning, brother. You guys are wonderful old guys on here that have made it a point to bless us with your knowledge.
Okay, so who watched Soul Train in color? Who had a color TV? Since we going to the transistor radio, who watched it in black and white?
I ain't gonna lie.
I had black and white TV.
When we first watched it, it was black and white. Definitely black and white.
Yeah. OGs up here.
God.
You had the UHF, you had the VHF, and the antennas you had to fix. Yeah, I
well, I will confess. That I watched it in black and white because you dare not go downstairs to that color TV and put that on in the living room.
Right? No, sir. No, sir.
Y'all had more than one TV. Roger was right.
No, sir.
We had more than one TV. We had one TV and one phone. One TV and one phone in the kitchen.
Hey, and Tears Raw says 8-track tapes. Yes, I had 8-track tapes too. Yeah,
brother. Hey, Gopi. Now I'm gonna show my age real quick. I still have a 1977 Monte Carlo cloth top with the original 8-track player still in it, and it works like a charm.
Wow,
works like a charm. Now I still got reel to reel.
What was your favorite 8-track tape? I'm gonna start first. Let me start first. The Commodores and the Miracles.
Ooh, goodness. Now see, you gonna actually make me like
my
first one. My favorite was the Commodores, but my favorite one is Zoom. Zoom by the Commodores, because that was my dad's jam. And one day I'm riding. I was in college at the time, and I'm driving, and my dad's sitting over there. The song came on, and you know how that song come on and it hit you. I did that, and I was like, "Ooh!" And I started singing along with it.
Yes, sir.
My dad looked at me like I had.
Now let me tell you, the greatest 8-track. The greatest 8-track is the best of Earth, Wind, and Fire. The first best of Earth, Wind, and Fire has Sun Goddess. That's the way of the world. Reasons, Shining Star.
Right.
It was one of those 8-tracks.
Yep.
Because it was different. It was difficult to play what you wanted to play on an 8-track. So when you had a great album, you didn't worry about that. You just played the whole damn 8-track out. Yeah. And that best of Earth, Wind, and Fire, from beginning to end. Great songs from beginning to end. Just great. That Sun Goddess alone, you know. Way oh,
Yeah, dog.
There's nothing that beat Guru. There's
man,
nothing
I
that
mean, you
beats
could just play that all. You can play that all day. You can play the 8-track all day.
Hey, Uru, there's nothing that beats that. When Zoom came on and you let that Zoom rock the Commodores and Lionel Richie hit that
Ooh, dude.
No.
Hey.
Here's your Black Manosphere anthem. Sail on down the line.
Oh, yes, sir.
Half a mile or so.
Breakup song.
That's right. Don't really want to know. Doesn't matter.
Well,
Dog, if you ain't never broke up with a chick.
Okay, I'm gonna have to apologize
Gave
to
you my heart, and I tried to make you happy.
Yes, sir.
Baby, I like that's what was happening, man.
Dude, I'm telling you.
Well, I like to
Sail
fly
on.
away.
Hey, man, don't y'all be clipping this.
No, I'm gonna say I gotta apologize to the audience. I thought we was gonna talk about Don Cornelius and his impact with people who just simply may have watched Soul Train. I didn't know we was talking to the people who gave him the idea to do Soul Train.
You see how
Wow.
Perfect.
I see now.
Want you guys to give him that same work that you gave me.
No. See, something like that, Roger. See, you just come in and start throwing stones. We up here reminiscing, talking about the good times and everything. I done told y'all, your only person soup who is forever safe. I'm just saying. He on the panel, and he the only one who's safe. He is the. I ain't even safe. So Roger, you keep on throwing them pebbles. You keep on throwing them spitballs if you want to.
I was just coming to talk about this great man that I researched and his impact of the show and all that. Y'all just took it to a whole new level.
Because the grown folks talking, y'all sit down in the corner. The grown folks talking.
When grown folk talking, you shut up.
That's what Don did, though.
Yeah.
You know, when you hear us singing those songs, that's what we're remembering. That's what he helped to create. Those memories, those family reunions, those house parties. You know
that blackness,
you know what's sad?
That blackness that we lose.
Lost? You know what? And I think you appreciate this, Perfect, even though you're young, but you kind of touched on this. Let's remember, we could have a party in an apartment packed with people, everybody having a good time, drinks flowing, maybe some herbs flowing, nobody fighting, no guns, nobody trying to push up on anybody's woman at the party. I just remember having so many basement parties, house parties even at our school. I remember having they would have let us have parties at an elementary school in the neighborhood I grew up in, and there was never any fighting, never any guns, never any extra grabbing on somebody's woman or some girl. They were very peaceful events, even though they would be packed with Black people. They were very peaceful events. I don't remember growing up, I don't remember any major incident happening at any of these neighborhood party scenarios when I was growing up.
Nah, Black Uru, because
and that's something that's definitely
listen to the lyrics. Listen to the lyrics. Like, for instance, if you're in the party and Earth, Wind, and Fire come on, and the lyrics to the song say, "We are people, mighty people. We are people of the mighty, mighty people of the sun. In our hearts lie all the answers to the truth you can't run from." You can't fight to that. You how you gonna pull out a fofo and you trying to inspire people to be better than what they are, telling them that you are the people of the sun? Because now what a lot of folks don't realize is we are the only people in the world on the face of this earth who have ever been called the soul people, the people of the sun. It was a lot of messages in that music back then. A lot of deep messages, and when you go back and you play it now, it's like, wait, they was on the level back then.
That speaks to history, right? Because you remember, black people had to communicate a certain way, and it was through music, it was through sound, song, and all like that. This is a historical type deal. It just became modernized when people put it in a different way to communicate, right? When that vinyl hit, you guys remember the song "Play at Your Own Risk"?
Yes.
And when I was young, I was popping off that song. It was a great song. I mean, hey, that's the song that you start popping off. It's battle. It's go time, baby. But when later, when I listened to the lyrics, I was like, this is what they was. This is different now, because he was saying to his woman, "Play at your own risk if you want to. I'm telling you."
Yeah.
Play at your own risk.
This is what I wanted to get at. We were in love with being black. It was you didn't have to tell anyone to be proud to be black because it was the best thing going, man. And to my point, what we need to realize is American Bandstand never went away. Because what we're talking about is this black culture, and it actually was destroyed and killed for a reason, right? Because of what the memories and the feelings that we have now is why it doesn't exist anymore, and why American Bandstand still exists, right?
Yep.
There was a reason why Don Cornelius is such, like Roger chose him, because he sold out. He could have sold it, but he stayed up there even when he was old, because what it meant for blackness and how it meant black people felt about each other. This is the reason why we could have a Cosby Show. Couldn't do a Cosby Show today, but we loved each other. We loved each other, and it was not hard. It wasn't work. It wasn't work. We didn't try. That's why we could have these parties with balloons, rubbing them on your chest and sticking them to the wall. That's why we could have these. We were in love with being black.
Perfect.
And on that same Saturday that you watched,
hold on.
On that same Saturday you watched Soul Train.
He said putting balloons on your chest and rubber.
Sticking them on the wall. That's the party Uru was talking about. I remember that part. We had to sneak in.
Yeah,
there was balloons on the wall.
Static.
You didn't rub them on you,
Well, I don't know where you rubbed yours, but I rubbed them on my chest. Okay, I don't know where you rubbing yours.
It's interesting you mentioned.
Leave him alone. Wherever he rub his balloon, let him rub his balloon.
I don't want to hear we're not interested when you rubbed your balloon, brother.
Put him on the ball,
Well, that same Saturday morning, you watched or early afternoon that you watched Soul Train. You also watched the Fat Albert Show that same Saturday.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that same Saturday.
Come on.
So it's interesting how we've fallen so far away. I mean, this was 50 years ago, and we've fallen so far away from where we was progressing to. But it's kind of like what Perfect said. There's a, I was thinking about the song as you guys were talking about how you had to be peaceful because of music. I was thinking about the great what's his name? He died a few months back.
What did he sing?
Maze.
Okay,
Frankie Beverly and Maze.
Yes.
And I was thinking about that song, Happy Feeling. In the beginning of the song, it says, happy feeling in the air, touching people everywhere.
Right.
Plenty love and everything. Listen to the people sing.
Right.
They don't make songs like that anymore. But you're right. If you're singing songs like that, how could you possibly be thinking about hurting each other?
Closing the block.
You can't.
Closing the block. Yeah.
And what if it's the people of the sun? What if it's these powerful people using their God-given powers, right? Which is why it can't exist anymore, because it wasn't a song; it was an incantation, right?
Right.
And that's what we lived in, right? Because it's more than music to us. It's always been more than music to us.
And I would say,
you know what I think when black music really died, like culturally, I remember, and you might have to be old and have observed hip hop, over the course of history. Remember when the music group Arrested Development became like the biggest thing going. I think when they saw Arrested Development, because it was rap, but it was very pro-black and very artistic and very cultural, and right after that we got Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, or whatever, and we haven't turned back since then. And I'm not even necessarily, condemning, Snoop and Dre per se, but I think they saw Arrested Development, and it did represent kind of a continuation of what we were talking about earlier. And they say we got to get rid of that shit. We can't have that. We can't have white kids, dancing and singing to this kind of music featuring these black people like this. We got to get this shit out of here. And we've never seen a group of that type reach that kind of prominence again. We have not seen that again. It's all been hardcore now. It's all been hardcore.
White girl, the black eyed peas.
Think about this, Uru. Think about this, Black Uru. If you go back to the LA riots, right after the Rodney King verdict, or during that time, if you listen to the radio, the soundtrack on the radio was "Fight the Power," "Push Back," "We Standing Up." It was that. Now you come fast forward to George Floyd, Black Lives Matter. What's the soundtrack? Lil Nas X. I'm gonna take my horse to the Old Town Road.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? The soundtrack is totally different because, much to Perfect's point, we use these as incantations because we were speaking to a part of us that we didn't even realize we were speaking to. We were speaking to that spirit of our ancestors that we did not even realize we were speaking to. That's why it caught on, because listen, it's fire. It's fire. So if I'm over here and I start jamming and I catch on fire, Black will go jump in and he go catch on fire. Toya gonna jump in, she gonna catch on fire. Gold P gonna be sitting over in his wheelchair going, you know what? I remember when.
See what I'm talking about, man.
But we gonna have a good time.
Yeah, hey, Roger. What the problem is, Roger?
Ain't no problem. He just painting the picture so we can envision how it was way back when.
I just went out all you guys, and I gotta be in the wheelchair.
Hey, brother.
I mean, this was right before you got out, and you able to use your walker. I mean, I'm proud that you're able to use your walker now, but I mean, you had to come from a long way. With your old ass.
Now,
it was. I'm glad you made it, brother. I'm glad you made it, because those restrictions. Shout out to all my people in wheelchairs. I understand some of them restrictions can be taxing on a person.
Yeah, man.
I get it.
But if Gold P can do it, anybody can do it.
I'm glad you guys got all this work for me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I do want to say this too, though, because real talk, when you think about those groups, especially somebody like Arrested Development, where can those people go? Soul Train. See, Don was gonna have groups like that on Soul Train. Did Arrested Development appear on shows? Of course they did. You see, it gave artists an avenue to do something where even when labels became far more controlling of them, they could do something. And I'm gonna say there's sometimes you have even possibly unintended consequences. Let's say you are getting into it with your label, and your label saying, well, you're not really worth this and you're not really worth that. You can go to Soul Train. Boom. We are worth something. Because who gonna tune in to Soul Train? Black America, the whole thing, just about the whole thing, and then everybody else who like black music is gonna be right there. So it gave people, what I'm saying? I'm sure being on Soul Train gave artists some bargaining chips that they wouldn't have been respected if Soul Train didn't exist. It gives you form of leverage because you can prove you can draw an audience.
See, the unfortunate part is at a certain point, once like video took over, and then later when there was a consolidation of and you can credit this to Bill Clinton in the mid-90s, the Telecom Act, where you had your big media companies buying up radio, television, whatever. They could control, whereas you can have a Tribe Called Quest or whatever just sort of grow in the concrete, from the concrete. Now you essentially eliminated the possibility of those things kind of holistically becoming big. They could still, formulate, but they couldn't reach positions of prominence because the evil white and small hat folks would limit their ability to reach, beyond a certain point. And that's why I said, to me, the arrest, because see, I remember the Arrested Development being featured on TV. I remember them appearing on television shows and whatever. And I was like, wow, and this was also during the time of different world. So it was a very Tupac appeared on Different World. I remember it being this very kind of it just sort of this heightening of black aesthetic and living single and I remember all that stuff kind of coming up where you had a lot of these sort of positive pro images, professional black people, whatever, and then they got control of it. Then it all start going into some gangster type of shit.
I would like to say this, to Perfect's point, it was a ritual when we sat down. We had to do chores, get everything together. This was a ritual. You had to get your house, make sure your chores was together. Everything was together before you can go and sit down and watch Soul Train, Fat Albert. I used to watch Kung Fu Theater every Saturday. And these were things that held our attention, right? Fat Albert, Incredible Hulk, all these shows that spoke to Soul Train. These were premier shows that had black people's especially attention. And go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say not even just attention. I think, and this is my theory on it, because like I said, I did used to watch this when I was a kid. I had to be careful about it because it wasn't supposed to be watching it. But I do think when I look at how things were during that time frame, and I know people don't really think about it, but as I've told y'all time and time again, your subconscious rules you. I think black people acted in a way where the people we respected on television, you wanted to make them proud.
Right.
So you had someone like a Don Cornelius, even though, I don't know how big he was amongst white people or how much they wanted to show how big he was, because I know they watched the show. You know what I'm saying? The numbers can show you that they watched the show, but they may not have wanted to say they cool with him like that. But us as black folks, we wanted to make the man proud. We wanted to comport ourselves or carry ourselves in a way that someone like him can be proud to to give us all the attention that he's given us. Because at the end of the day, he was about black folks being on television, being respected, and looking good. And he did a lot of good stuff to impact people into being that way. So you wanted figures like that to be proud of you. You wanted to be, you know, like a Bill Cosby when he was doing the Cosby Show. You wanted people like that to be proud of you. I just saw a clip with a guy. He had Felicia Rashad. You know, it was a clip he did. He had Felicia Rashad. It was something about eating. The man did not eat what he was going to eat. And then he ate what Felicia told him to eat, which was a banana, because he was a big guy. And, you know, he folded real quick. And I'm going to say, realistically, yeah, most people would have folded the same way, just as quick as he did, because we wanted to make these folks that we love and respect to be proud of us as younger men and women. And I think it's a good thing to have folks like that on television, because you want to make Don proud. Okay, I think even the black artists, especially when I've seen people talking about them. Go ahead, Black Hole.
Well, because he had, I said earlier, he was a tall man. He was a good-looking man. He had that great voice. He had a kind of fatherly, avuncular uncle. You know, he. I'm sure in the presence, in his physical presence, because a lot of these artists were considerably younger than him as well. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them were. So I'm sure and this was during a time in which, you know, that there would be some actual reverence for black men in general, because most people were still being raised in the households with most black people still being raised in the households with their fathers, or at least with some men, their grandfathers or whatever. So he was cool, and he was together and with it, etc., whatever. But he also had the image and the presentation of an elder. So he was very, you know, he was a very good mix of both, and you could see it resonate in his exchanges with the artist when he interviewed him. And I think that's part of the reason why he did kind of bump heads with Rick James, because Rick James was kind of out there. Rick James' whole thing to some degree was being somewhat, you know, Rick James was like a soul, R&B, a soul artist who kind of fancied himself to be sort of a rock musician or whatever. And part of that was him, a rebel. Yeah. And part of that was him trying to be somewhat defiant or whatever. And that kind of came out. But Don, and I think part of the reason why he didn't necessarily like, look, a lot of the older artists did not like rap music. Now we have the benefit of hindsight, whatever. I mean, even myself, I have some mixed views about rap. And because part of my mixed views about rap is that because I grew up, you know, early, you know, part of the 60s, but really in the 70s, man, you had to be a fucking musician, man, to get down back then. You couldn't just put on a damn record and do something. You had to play, man. Look, let me tell you, you know, even bigger than being an athlete, or even bigger than being particularly good looking, or hell, to some degree, even having money. Man, if you could fucking play the drums, or you can play the lead guitar or the bass guitar, that was it, baby. You were a god, man, in the 70s. Oh, man. So you had a certain reverence. Let me just drive home the point. I'll let you go, Perfect, because I'm sure you're gonna make a good relevant point. So you kind of had a bumping up against the fact of this particular kind of effort that was required and talent to make music and get the props and the status of being a musician, that prior to rap, it was a whole different, man. You had to really be able to sing. You know, like Philip Bailey that was talking about Earth, Wind, and Fire. You couldn't fake that. You couldn't fake being able to sing.
No, sir.
You couldn't fake, you know, you couldn't just put on a record and hype up a certain part of the record and use that in the place of whatever talent you don't have. So, but go ahead, Perfect.
I was going to bolster your point by saying, so everybody could do that when I was a kid. in the neighborhood. And what made you a celebrity, what made it different, and this was a big change too, is you had to be a triple threat. Everybody who we love and we talk about were all triple threats. Michael, Diana, everybody could sing, dance, and act, and they had to. Even Richard Pryor, like, you would be surprised at how many different talents, the people that was on TV. So everybody in the neighborhood understood that we could play instruments. So everybody had an instrument at home. But the celebrities, to be at the higher echelon of black celebrity, most of them, and my father would teach me this, but I noticed that they had to be a triple threat to go to that next level. Like Michael had to learn how to act. He had to act. He had to sing, he had to dance to be at that, to this day, because he set the bar to even be considered. You got to be a triple threat. And that's unique. That was unique to us, and that was unique to that era where you find these individuals with multifaceted talents at better than even Sidney Poitier. I've seen him sing better than some artists.
Yes, he did sing. Yes, sir. And I would
say
dance.
And I would say this.
Well, but he started in the theater. When you start in the theater, you have to be able to sing and dance.
I would say
when you
this.
start in black theater in particular, you have to be able to sing and dance.
I would say this, man. When Bootsy Collins came on to Soul Train, I mean, this speaks to your point, Uru. Being able to play the bass guitar, because Bootsy was one where Prince took lessons from how to play the bass, man, from Bootsy. Bootsy was an entertainer. I mean, he come in with the Star Child glasses, and he is able to sing, and the way he sing things. And when he stepped onto the stage on Soul Train, I mean, hey man, Bootsy was changing the game, because
who did Bootsy play with when he was a kid? Soul Brother #1, James Brown.
James Brown and
Bruce was like a 19 to 20-year-old kid playing guitar for James Brown.
I would say Bootsy was one who understood how to create. You remember George Clinton, Parliament, and all them, when they came out, they had a style, and they were performers. They played this goes to the band conversation, right? This goes to the band. You had a band, and you was able to sing and play instruments and rock out, sing, and all. Man, you was winning.
He was the first rock star. He was the first rock star. He was the first celebrity rock star. We created everything. If we get into it, man, then what you gonna come to is that, well, what's a rock star, and who's the first rock star, and who created that? That you're describing the rock star persona that was taken on by others, but you're explaining the fact that Bootsy Collins created that, right?
Bootsy was a winner, and I'm gonna just tell you what happened, Uru, is when DJs, because it came into where the DJs were on the radio stations. DJs was at parties like those house parties, because you couldn't bring a whole band into your house party. So you brought up the vinyl. So the DJs was rocking out and playing the hottest tracks. They were on the radio, and et cetera, et cetera. And once DJs started blowing up the scene and creating parties, because artists was wanting to be paid for the setup and all, which I'm not mad at, but DJs kind of reshaped how the music will be played and how the concert will be shown. And DJs became the premier entertainment or talent, because they was going up there and people wanted to come dance and sing and all. So it was a vehicle for a different type of era after Soul Train, because Soul Train was where people came up and performed and literally seen their favorite entertainers and all like that. But the onset of people doing house parties, doing those those rent parties like you was talking about, Uru. Well, they had to have they had to have somebody play the music. So the DJs had to come in and change the game. This is what happened to whereas DJs, fell into a certain kind of precarious type space because they on one side they wanted to
the DJ. I mean, there's always been people to some form of DJing since there have been records and kind of extension from radio stations and that sort of thing. And I don't want to, because I know we have younger people listening and they might feel a certain way about the critique of
well, let me finish laying it out.
I grew up
Let me finish laying it out. And so what I was saying is the DJs were in a precarious type of position because they're on one side, they are promoting the music and speaking to the position of, you can't necessarily get these entertainers or performers because they're requiring quite a bit of money to perform, and you need a sizable venue. Whereas the people are having these rent parties, people are having these little club parties and things like that. And so now the DJs found a way to where they can make money too and continue to move forward and build. They played the music from Soul Train. They promoted Soul Train, but Soul Train was an event that happened on the weekends. So how do you keep the music going and people, the buzz going? Well, the DJs came in and started playing that music that's played on the radio, played on Soul Train, played by these artists because everybody loved. This is why you got the vinyl. This is why you got the 8-tracks. This is why you got, as time went by, you picked up the CDs, the cassette tapes and stuff like that because the DJs was making it happen. But fast forward to now, you don't have a lot of performances like we would like to have had or have. And this speaks to where we are at now, where we've lost a lot. And I'm not, the DJs are pertinent to the program. We need DJs. But I think the industry has taken it in a different way to where it hasn't been as productive, I would say, when it comes to the music genre, whether it's R&B, rap, or whatever it is. We've because the music.
Here's the question. Here's the question I would have about rap and entertainment.
Yes,
and I think it's a fair critique or question about rap entertainment, particularly concerts, whatever. I don't find the performance of rap itself to be particularly entertaining. I might enjoy the rap. I might enjoy the lyrics. I might enjoy the presentation of the lyrics. I might enjoy the music. But I'm not seeing Michael Jackson. I'm not seeing Prince. Right? I'm not having that particular energetic experience in performance. And rap, I mean, you would see, maybe to some degree, you'd have like Tupac or whatever, and I guess they have the dancers or whatever, but it just it wasn't the same.
Well, hold on.
It wasn't the same. It's not the same.
Hold on. I will tell you who was one of the greatest performers when it came to the rap game and being on stage. MC Hammer. When I went to MC Hammer's concert, God dog it, man. Hammer was, I mean, off the cuff. Off the cuff, man.
A stadium. I said that to my wife the other day. He missed out on the merch because everybody in the ASU stadium had on Hammer pants. Not only was we going crazy, but we all had on Hammer pants. It's a shame.
Hammer was, his performance, his whole.
Hammer.
Wow. When
100 people on stage. 100 people on stage.
When I went to his concert, man, Hammer was when he came out and said, Hammer, oh, everybody blew up, man.
Let's get it started.
Let's get it started. Hammer was, off the cuff, man. He was on point. Now,
DJ was weak,
but none of the other rappers really did the same.
Yeah,
ironically, the only rapper that somewhat got close to him, ironically, in that regard, was the white boy, Vanilla Ice.
Right.
Vanilla Ice had a lot of that in what he did.
He was the white hammer.
He danced quite a bit.
He was the white hammer.
Yeah.
Let me throw this in.
Now, we can say he copied Hammer, but he did for a white boy, he did a fairly decent job in that regard.
No, he was good.
He was all right.
But to Goldie's point, to the topic, Gold P, and I would like you guys to expound on this. How as you're speaking, I'm saying, wow, this is really what affected Soul Train. It to me is kind of like is more intimate. This is my culture, my more intimate to me, because some of the groups you guys mentioned, I'm not too familiar with what hip hop was, but I have to agree, Soul Train changed because I got to see both. I'm in that sweet spot where I got to see both, where it was more fun when I got to look at my uncles and aunties doing the Soul Train line. There really was no Soul Train line when hip hop took over Soul Train, and the DJ and the lack of that performance, it really affected the show. It did. Just to bring it back to that did have from a perspective.
Hold on, let me correct. Let me correct myself. There was another group that was particularly great performers, and they rap. Kid and Play. We got to get Kid and Play.
Kid and Play was all right.
They were fantastic.
Not the level of Hammer, brother.
They were fantastic. They were. Well, I'm not saying they were better than Hammer. I'm just saying, and they were very popular because they rapped and perform.
I would say Heavy D was better than Kid and Play, man. Heavy D put on the show.
Well, Heavy D was great too. Heavy
D was far better than Kid and Play. Heavy D.
I will agree with that.
All right. Well, I think Heavy was a better rapper than them. I think he was a better rapper.
All right. We're gonna slow it down. We're gonna slow it down a little bit. We're gonna slow it down a little bit because we got another special guest who has come up. We got the illest nigga has come up, y'all. Not one of the illest. The illest nigga has come up. Okay. So y'all make some room. Okay. Don't make him elbow too many people in the eye. The illest nigga is here.
The illest.
So I'm gonna give him the mic. Go ahead, my brother.
Go ahead.
Peace. Shout out to the gentleman on the panel. Shout out to you, Roger. And also shout out to American Bandstand with Dick Clark. Because this is where Soul Train came from. So, when we talk about we have stuff and shout out to Cornelius because Soul Train was the answer to American Bandstand when our artists were blacklisted or weren't considered mainstream enough. So the ingenuity of just saying, okay, we're going to create our own and have our own, and I thought Soul Train was a fantastic answer to American Bandstand. Not only was it a fantastic answer to it, I don't know if Soul Train outlasted, but definitely Bandstand ended up being discontinued way before Soul Train ever finished up, and that was part of a staple Saturday, and and I know why you guys are talking about MC Hammer, but like for my generation, New Jack Swing was really the thing, right? Jodeci, SWV, Tevin Campbell, those guys, were lighting up back in the day, and also shout out to Biggie Smalls, the greatest rapper of all time. Shout out to P. Diddy with the 50 months. But I would say don't wipe your ass, but Since you like Indian cheeks claps, man, that's 50 months in heaven for you. Man, some people are lucky, dude. I mean, that's like a nigga getting arrested and going to an all-women's jail for 50 months. But that's besides the point. I just wanted to say
that's all good.
I just want to say that just shout out to Cornelius, because at the end of the day, it's because what I like is when we have answers to white supremacy. And for me, Soul Train was a fantastic answer, and it shows the success of our answer for white supremacy when American Bandstand was blocking out a lot of our artists. And I'll pass the mic on that.
Hey, that's for real. I can appreciate how the illest Negro came through and said what he had to say. That's real talk.
I mean that was an opening statement that backed up the name. I ain't gonna even lie.
He backed that up. You know what I'm saying? He came in hot and stood on it.
And I have to agree, it was a great response. I mean, for those who don't know, the American Bandstand started in the 50s. So they had been blocking Black American artists. They've been blocking because, again, Soul Train didn't start to 71. They've been since 54. They had American 52. Bandstand. You 52. Know? Oh, 52. Okay. Yeah. So that's a whole lot of years of blocking. And I got to say, shout out for Don Cornelius to have the good sense to say, you know what? We ain't gonna beg you to get up on your show. We just gonna do it bigger and better than you. And you know what? When it come down to it, you know, no offense to anybody who gets offended, but we just do music better. It's that simple at the end of the day. I think
Roger, this speaks to a historical standpoint.
What, did we just do music better?
No, I'm speaking of anything. Listen.
Oh, I'm just saying we just do music better. I'm just making that plain.
I got you. I'm saying
just do music better.
The deeper part of it is, you know, Black people, the Sun people have done this for an umpteen amount of years. Speaking historically, listen, we can equate this to how we put together when they said, no, you can't come across this track. You better not come across this railroad track. So we said, okay, we ain't coming across this railroad track. We're going to create our own thing. And what happened? It started blowing up. And we started making it happen. And then what happened? Those people came across the track and said, you know what? You can't have this. Fast forward. Don Cornelius says, you know what? We don't need y'all stuff. We're going to create our own thing. And next thing you know, before it even really gets started, there's a line of blocks being thrown in the way because, you know, you Black people over there across the street shouldn't be having all this great happiness and doing better than what we're doing. We want to throw these blocks in the way. You got what? You want to be performing and having great people on your show? Well, we don't want you to do that.
And I want to say some. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Hassel. Go ahead.
And I want to say something else here. Is not only was it a more popular show, we started to get the white advertisement.
Right.
So like when white people was like, no, because we're gonna lose sponsorship. Not only that, Soul Train was starting to get more sponsorship towards the end than American Bandstand on top of that.
Yes,
so not only did we outperform you, we took your money, nigga.
It became a financial situation.
Yep.
So now they had to come across the street.
Yep. So we fucking white hoes on white money.
So there's a piece you guys are missing about American Bandstand when I said it never stopped. So Dick Clark and the ball drop, American Bandstand is the top 45 in America. That's why it was so powerful. That's why it really was
top 40. Yeah.
That's why it really was. What's the word? Blacking out, or what's the word that Roger used? Because
blackballing.
It wasn't, yeah, correct. It wasn't just the fact of performing. It was being in that top 40, which made you wealthy and made you be able to sell records. He controlled that. And to this day, he still does, because he passed it over to Ryan Seacrest. And he still be up there at the ball drop. And I pay attention to these things. I talk with my intimate friends. I'm like, hey, but people don't understand when I say, did you notice how Ryan Seacrest inherited? And while Ryan Seacrest was owning the Kardashian show, he still did radio. And I mean, he owns the Kardashian. Ryan Seacrest created that show. He owns that show and all the spinoff shows. This boy got money. But at the same time he was doing American Idol and the Kardashians, he took over the radio. Because to my point of understanding what that top 40 means in culture and influence in America, the white people was never going to let that go. They control that to this day. That's how they control music.
Well, it didn't really, I mean, I get what you're saying, but when it came to Soul Train and we creating a position to where we can win, to where it's got them people over there saying, hey, you know, look at what they doing. We need to now be like them. We thought we had it going on.
It created a situation where we could participate. But Michael still had to break into the top 40. Today, black artists still have to break in. And then the RIAA created R&B in these genres that Hassauce brought up. So you can live over there number one in R&B, but that ain't shit. That ain't real money. You don't do stadium tours.
Yeah, but Soul Train was more. Soul Train was more than just the money. Soul Train spoke to what we needed to get out.
No, I agree about, because I mentioned the culture, but I was just saying to Hassauce and you guys about American Bandstand and what it really is. It's the top 40, and that's white to this day.
Yeah, it's the black version of the top 40. Because I will agree with you. I would say this, right? I would still say that Soul Train did put American Bandstand out of business because it regulated. American Bandstand went from every weekend to now holidays, right? And it went from American Bandstand to MTV, because it was one dude before with Seacrest. I forgot his name, but it went from Dick Clark to, I want to say something Daily.
Casey Kasem.
Oh yeah. Casey. It went Dick Clark,
Carson
Casey
Daly.
Kasem.
That's who it was.
Who?
Carson Daly.
Yeah. So Casey Kasem, Carson Daly to Seacrest, but Bandstand did eventually go off the air and was just regulated to New Year's Eve.
But do you guys realize and see how multi-billionaires take on that radio position? Why would people with that much money and power and influence, Carson Daly, who owns and created TRL, why would they go do radio? What is it about this top 40? That was, when I say counterculture, and you're right, Hassauce, that was the most important thing about, because I believe Don Cornelius understood these metrics behind the dancing, right? Is that we need to have a position. Like you got country music awards, Latin Grammys, country Grammys. There's nothing for us. This is what we created for us. Out of this come the Soul Train Awards.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And Don definitely understood, because he pushed this whole thing about we need to control our image and we need to do it our way. And we need to own it. You know, and that's why I say I haven't found one early. I think this man was the first black man who was an executive producer of a show.
No, I don't. I think like Cosby was. I think Cosby holds that title.
Bro, I mean, possible, but I mean, this started October 2nd, 1971.
Yeah, but Cosby was doing the I Spy thing, and I think he was the executive.
Yeah, he was doing I Spy.
Okay, you know what? Let me go check that out. Y'all keep on going. I'm just gonna look it up real quick.
I might be wrong, but I think it's Cosby.
I mean, even if it was Cosby, shout out to him. But I'm gonna say he was one of the first. Obviously, he still was one of the first.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Cosby had a lot of shows that he was already executive.
Oh, yeah, and also for sure, Fat Albert. Yeah, for sure, Fat Albert.
And he was already directing. He was directing, executive producing, and
Well, I mean, my thing, we ain't got to battle them two out. They both did their things. Both icons. They both was early in the game, making great things happen for people. So I'm not gonna turn it into a Cornelius versus Cosby situation.
No, we ain't trying to go there.
But I think what we learned and hopefully one day we can reach is that it shows the power of creating a foundational market. Because if you can sell and do commerce amongst your people, it makes it that much easier for you to go out and venture to the foreigner, right? Because what Soul Train did, especially for New Jack Swing, right? Like the what is that? Like Backstreet, SWV, Tevin Campbell, High Five, Jodeci, Boys to Men, that whole genre of New Jack Swing, right? Without Soul Train, I don't think New Jack Swing would make it to the radio station like that.
And we do know, so I do recall Jodeci being on Soul Train.
All of them were on Soul Train.
Soul Train and Jodeci is one of the groups, R&B groups that definitely blew up and they changed the look, the feel of a lot of R&B. You know, they was one of the groups
because
that
most of them, because most of the, because if you look at it, right, MTV had music videos at that time in the 90s, right? And you had Yo MTV Raps, right? But Yo MTV Raps were playing what the white boys was listening to. Like, no, they were listening to Jodeci or SWV or Wu-Tang Clan, right? They were listening to You Say You Just a Friend by Biz Markie, Vanilla Ice. You know what I mean? Like that corny white shit, that corny rap, right? They were listening to like Dr. Dre and the Chronic, you know? But because
they came on at night too, late at night.
But because of Soul Train, you can, if you got on Soul Train was a stepping stone to get on Yo MTV Raps, and Yo MTV Raps was the stepping stone to get you across the aisle, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's the thing, right? So that's the importance of having a base, because if your base loves you, then when it's time to cross over, you can go to MTV Raps where the crossover is, and from there, you can go into the mainstream.
Would you guys say that Soul Train was more so grassroots?
I mean, it was a nationally syndicated show. I don't know if you can consider that grassroots. I mean, the man definitely had a path.
I would say very early,
Black America,
very early, it was a little more grassroots, because the first few, it featured like Chicago, local Chicago artists like The Emotions and Jerry Butler and whatever. So at the very beginning of kind of grassroots, then he moved to LA because, a lot of Motown at some point had moved out to LA. So a lot of the focus of Black music had moved from, or started to move from, Chicago and New York to Los Angeles. So it didn't lose its Black roots, but it just became more national, I guess, in scope.
So its origin is grassroots.
I mean, the man was throwing high school parties in Chicago, so he definitely did it from the grassroots.
Yeah, his origins in Chicago, very much Chicago.
So its origin is grassroots.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to say too, because the illest nigga made a good point about your base. Now I'm gonna say, in America, having Black people has proven to be a very good base, because black people being interested in your show or product or whatever, or your business in whatever way, has helped people stay in business. Because if it wasn't for Black folks supporting Fox wouldn't be around right now.
Hey, Asians would not be in Ivy League school if it wasn't for the hair and eyelashes.
No, I'm just saying though, a lot of black interests have saved a lot of companies over the years.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say black is probably the best base you can get, truth be told. And if you happen to be black, take advantage. It's that simple at the end of the day.
Well, it doesn't work that way, Roger. It doesn't. If you white, Asian, Latino, you go sell something to the niggas. You're a nigga, you gotta go sell to the white folk.
Well, I'm just saying we're a good base to have. That's what I'm saying.
For non-black businesses.
You know, we over here are going to support the Roger Report because he is black business.
Hey, well, you know what? Of course, I'm a good base to have in any of what you listen to. Real talk.
Well, but we haven't lost our minds, right? But I mean, come on, that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah, because I'm gonna say, you know, Don Cornelius saw the importance of this stuff, and he never let it go. Because you got to understand, I'm pretty sure people offered to buy him out and things like that, and he never did it. Keep in mind, he hosted this thing till he was an old man, you know, and he wasn't getting around like he used to. I remember Shamar Moore taking over because I know he hosted for a little while.
That was horrible.
Yeah, well, I mean, he not done. It just is what it is. You know, you coming behind him, he got decades of.
When he hit you with the peace and
the biggest problem with Lamar, let's be frank. The biggest problem with Lamar was he wasn't really raised to be a black guy. He was this biracial guy raised by a white woman, and it showed. When he was on that show, it showed he was not really in touch with black music and the whole black, what it means to be a black man. He just wasn't really in touch with that.
He just didn't have that. He didn't have that. So you know how
I was like, that light skin and that hair probably wasn't helping him in that department. He was a very sought after guy, but it probably wasn't helping him on Soul Train. That's
hey, Don, you know, had that way, especially when he had his afro and he had the big tie on his suit. I mean, he had a way about himself, man. You know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. When you look like Shamar Moore and you got to follow Don up after Don been doing this for decades, it's not necessarily the best situation to go into. Just real talk at the end of it. I mean, it's hard to follow anybody.
I'm really confused why he was picked. I think that there was this, you know, this was like the kind of the Halle Berry thing. So I think they thought this sort of multiracial thing was the happening thing. I don't know, but I remember being very surprised that they picked him to replace Don Cornelius, for Christ's
sake. And maybe he was, you know, speaking to a younger crowd, which is speaking to what you're talking about, Uru. It might have been the idea that we had enough.
I mean, the thing is, I don't want to say nothing negative toward him, but I am gonna say he wasn't Don. Don was there for years with the afro. Don was there, all stylish, suits on, all that. Don's voice compared to his voice, like it was a total opposite situation.
They could have picked anyone from thousands of young black men who would have done better at that than it was. I mean, yeah, obviously Don Cornelius was an original, but my point is if you pick like some version of Ralph Fezvant or something like that to fulfill that role, that shit worked during that time. Well, it wasn't just that he wasn't Don; he just wasn't even in touch with even black people. Young black people of that particular generational cohort.
Well, I think it makes sense because, like, when you look at like Jet Magazine, Ebony Magazine back in the day, right? He was like the best, like, you know, he was voted like the best looking guy, whatever, right? So it was like, okay, let's just put this nigga on, right? I mean, he's in Jet Magazine, he's in Ebony Magazine. Let me just put this nigga in, right?
Well, I'm saying
he was a nice looking biracial dude to look at, but that's very different than actually being, an entertainer and being able to really kind of connect musically. And
I'm just saying that just wasn't his bag. He was so in such an opposite direction. Because I mean, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, Black. I'm saying he was like going in just about the toe. You couldn't go no more opposite than to get a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy. You know what I'm saying? You couldn't go too much more opposite than that.
I would say that, because Shamar, he didn't wear suits. He didn't keep that same energy like Don.
Yeah, it was totally different.
And I think people lost sight of that. If there was some line of transition, to whereas you can, it was a hard transition. Let's say.
I mean, we went from suits to shirt and a sweater. Jeans and a sweater.
If they put Tupac in that role, that shit worked. If they picked Tupac and put him in that role, that worked.
Tupac wasn't old enough.
I'm just saying, if I listen, the point I'm trying to make is if you pick a Tupac figure and put him in that position in the 90s, that shit's gonna work.
Yeah, the energy wasn't the same.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, Black. I'm just saying Shamar was like the total opposite, which is why in my opinion, that's what that contrast just stuck out too much because you just went so far from what Don was.
I would say you would need it. Well, Puff Daddy would be perfect.
No, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Puff Daddy, or if you couldn't do a Puff Daddy, R. Kelly.
You know what? No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
Hey, look. I think Shamar didn't really understand the show.
I actually think R. Kelly or a Diddy could work. I think we kind of judge them based on their troubles. But I mean, I think if you separate them from their troubles, I think either of them probably do well. Probably do. If I'm thinking of the 20, if I'm thinking of the 20-something version of them where I don't know about them running off with Aaliyah to get married to 14-year-old Aaliyah, if I exclude that part from it, and I just look at them as young black men who in music and produce music and wrote, they would do great at that. They probably would have done young Diddy or young R. Kelly would have probably been fantastic at that.
I think young Diddy would have been the way to go. A young Diddy would have been the way to go.
I can agree with R. Kelly because R. Kelly actually has talent. R. Kelly can actually sing. He can actually play an instrument. He's an entertainer. Diddy's not. Never has been.
But Chef, no.
And the reason I say that is because Diddy would have just made the show around him. It wouldn't have been about the people. It would have revolved around him.
But
everything would have been around him.
That's a valid criticism. Now that right there is a valid criticism.
But I'm gonna say R. Kelly gonna want to perform. That's R. Kelly though. He don't want to host. He want to be the person performing.
No, Roger, that'd have been a good thing because R. Kelly would have came up and not only performed himself, he would have brought other performances. And it'd have been like Prince.
I think R. Kelly would.
Here's the problem. The problem is.
And would have
the problem is R. Kelly would have been outperforming,
but he would have
been outperforming his guests.
But
he'd have been outperforming his guests.
Because R. Kelly is a performer, he understands that, hey, I'm R. Kelly. I don't have to get down like that all the time. I'm gonna bring up this work because we do know R. Kelly has written and performed with a lot of people.
I'm gonna say R. Kelly's track record alone says he's not gonna be the host. You got to get a person who fits the position. R. Kelly ain't finna sit there and let all these guests come on and do their thing without his spirit of competition taking over.
What I'm saying is this. If a young P. Diddy before he took over Bad Boy, he would have been a phenomenal host. He used to host shows at Howard.
I agree with that.
Concerts, right? So he did that before actually in college. So he would have been perfect for that. Now I'm saying that if R. Kelly never got discovered, right? And then Don Cornelius like, yo, you can come on my show, you can sing a little bit when you want, but you can also host the show. I'm saying not R. Kelly as stardom. I'm saying before he was discovered.
Possibly, but that wouldn't last too long because R. Kelly, the competition alone, I'm better than these other people. I got to get that stage. R. Kelly got to get that stage.
He would have got discovered there and then move on. But Diddy for sure, because Diddy was doing it in college. So Diddy for sure would be great at it.
No, I agree with Diddy would be. Diddy would have been a great takeover.
I think the young Chicago element of R. Kelly, like you say, before he became quote R. Kelly, I think that shit would have been fantastic. The young Chicago element of it, that would have been fantastic.
Think about this. If R. Kelly was actually hosting Soul Train, think of all of the duets, all of the collaborations that would have come out of that. Because in his spirit of competition, which we will acknowledge that, he would have just flipped it and done a collaboration, brought more money doing a collaboration than trying to show up as artists. A smart man would do that.
People would have came looking for that.
Okay, well, you know what?
How they gonna flip it up this time?
This is a great point, but we are past the 3-hour mark, so we gonna end it right here. But I'm gonna say this, y'all. Real talk. You gotta give credit where credit is due. We have greats that have done a lot of things, and over here at the Roger Report Live, we gonna honor these greats. It just is what it is. So shout out to Don Cornelius. I know he's not around no more, but shout out to his family because I know he got kids and grandkids. So shout out to y'all. We appreciate your daddy. We appreciate your granddaddy. Real talk. Ain't enough we can say about what Don Cornelius did. And keep in mind, y'all, this wasn't just about no music. Don Cornelius was on a mission to improve the image of Black people throughout America and possibly around the world. But I know he was definitely on mission to improve the image of Black folks in America. And I think he was able to craft out a great idea that did just that. And I believe he gave some artists some extra power that they just didn't have while at a place like the Soul Train to go to. Real talk. And if y'all was anything like me, you was a kid too, maybe a teenager, maybe an adult, and Monday morning was something to you because of what happened on Soul Train. And you was trying to be the first person to make that move that you seen on Soul Train. That's real talk. And you was out there trying to make your jacket look like that jacket you saw on Soul Train, whether it was the artist jacket or some of those dancers, because everybody wanted to be fly. And if you could have got into the Soul, at least think you could have got on Soul Train, you knew you was fly. So y'all have a great rest of y'all day. I appreciate everybody who came to participate. I think it was a wonderful show. Real talk. And y'all never let somebody else to convince you to forget about your grades. Real talk. Never let somebody convince you to forget about your grades. Because he one of ours. Real talk. Y'all have a wonderful day. Long live the Habitual Line Steppers. I'm Roger. I'm right. And I'm out.
Love, peace.